Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow is underway on this Tuesday edition. Glad you're with us as we broadcast live on this great radio partner or streaming live on our YouTube channel. Search out OutKick and subscribe. Join Chad in the chat and much more. Big show planned. Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, he and 18-plus scouts every weekend at the biggest college football games and maybe some of the smallest, quite frankly, Division III even, scouting for the best to be invited to the Senior Bowl coming up on February 4th. We'll get his scouting report coming up in 20 minutes on some of the top quarterback play, including Jaden Daniels and Michael Penix Jr. John McClain has covered the NFL for 5 decades. He's been on our show, Chad, for 20 years or so.
A long time.
He joins us in hour number 2. And Curt Schilling, he's back on. Always a great conversation and storytelling from Curt Schilling around Major League Baseball. That's in hour number 3. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton.
How about last night? That's where we're starting with our top headlines today. Scorched earth on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. So the Steelers win, and the Browns last night lose Nick Chubb and somehow don't lose Deshaun Watson on a third-quarter scuffle, argument, confrontation on the sideline where he shoves an official and there's no flag, there's no ejection, and that's just kind of protocol. Crazy from the referee perspective that he's lenient on Watson with things just blatantly obvious like the shove on Monday Night Football.
Well, and I would also argue the Browns may have been better off had he been ejected from this game because he was terrible with the pick six, with the fumble, return for a touchdown. I like that officials are getting better about calling the offensive player for the offensive face mask.
Yes.
I think we've seen this in the last
2 of those
2 to 3 years, right? He got flagged for 2 of those. I'm happy to see that because Hutton, I felt like for years and years, the ball carrier could get away with a lot of silliness with what they could do with that outstretched arm, and especially on a face mask, that would go uncalled. And now that's changed. 2 of them last night against Watson. He does shove the official aside. He should have been ejected from the game. He was not, but that ended up leading to a costly mistake that gave the Steelers the win, a night where the Steelers offense couldn't do anything.
Yeah, and with 7 minutes to go in the fourth, Cleveland was leading that game on the road. They had lost 19 straight to the Steelers in Pittsburgh and make it 20 because of the last turnover and the scoop and score on the fumble. 3 turnovers on the evening in 8 games now as the quarterback in Cleveland. He has 11 total touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Not good. And not good because now he's got to be the guy. There had been some discussion, Chad, over the offseason about Kevin Stefanski, head coach of Cleveland, and the way he wants his offense to flow. The rhythm is through the run game despite the options they have in the pass game. And that's because of Nick Chubb. Gruesome injury last night where he tears every possible ligament in his knee and the knee's bent backwards and inside out on the replay that was shown in the stadium but not on ESPN. And the different angles that you can see on social media are just terrible. The same injury occurred for him on the same knee in Knoxville back in 2015, where Chubb, running back for Georgia, on the sideline took a hit, and it was on a special teams play, I believe, with Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, I was at that game. I remember it was so early in the game, I was walking into the stadium. I was in a line to get in and walked into the delay of Nick Chubb with that gruesome injury in Knoxville back in 2015. Awful moment. It's one of those that, immediately I was somewhere where I wasn't in front of a television, but people are looking at their phone and, hey, look at this. Oh, my gosh, this is pretty grotesque, but watch it anyways type moment with that injury. Hate to see that.
And the only difference between college and pro with that is in this one he's also torn his ACL.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. And you could tell just from the jump, he's done for the year. Without them even needing to see the replay. We didn't need to see the replay based on the reaction from those that had seen the play from the different angle on the opposite sideline. This sucks for Chubb and for the Browns because now they've got to flip into more of a pass mode, and that was the discussion about Stefanski. Can he keep his job by keeping the run game going when Watson's going to want to be Deshaun Watson from 2019, and he's got the guaranteed contract, and we've tongue-in-cheek said he has the NBA model where the player can make the calls based on the money that he's making from the ownership group.
Mathematically, we feel better about the Steelers, that 1-1, as opposed to 0-2 after that first week and that absolute beatdown from the 49ers. I don't feel that much better about them as a team watching that game because, and I'll talk more about it later, but Matt Canada not helping Kenny Pickett at all, and that offense looking horrific in this game, almost as horrific as that injury to Nick Chubb. And how horrific that is for the Browns' chances this year. That's the big difference. You leave week 1, Browns make Cincinnati look bad. Now Cincinnati looks bad for a second straight week, so how important was that for Cleveland? And then I leave this game thinking Pittsburgh could do nothing offensively, and you can't find enough. You can't get out of your own way to get a win and get to 2-0. Now I feel worse about the Browns, coming out of this also. I thought kind of much worse for Cleveland, no doubt, but sort of a bad night all around. I don't know that I feel that much better about Pittsburgh in a win after this game either.
Well, what they do is they're not staring up at two different teams that have a 2-game lead in their division. Meanwhile, Cleveland, Chad, they've got to make some moves at running back. That goes without saying. Jerome Ford stepped in and ran it well. I mean, he had 16 carries for 106 yards. But the real question is, how do they address the loss of Nick Chubb that was making a big chunk of cash, one of the top-played running backs in the NFL, and now back-to-back weeks on Monday Night Football? First Aaron Rodgers, now Nick Chubb, and who do they turn to? Jonathan Taylor is disgruntled and wants out in Indianapolis. He's on PUP for 2 more weeks in Indy based on the fact that he's hurt or not hurt or whatever. They never took him off the physically able to perform list. Cam Akers, they kept him out of the game in Los Angeles last week. Keep him healthy, and because Sean McVay doesn't want him there, he's on the trade block. That's no secret. And then Kareem Hunt, who certainly knows the Browns organization well, they can bring him back and sign him to their roster if they so choose. Plenty of options for Cleveland to address. The question is, how do they go about it, and who do they turn to first? Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer reports that they are already in on Cam Akers and possibly bringing back Kareem Hunt. But I would absolutely pick up the phone and call Indianapolis about a player that doesn't want to play for that organization any longer.
Yeah, Sean McVay even said, he is likely to be traded, talking about Cam Akers today when he talked with the media. If you want to try to replace Nick Chubb, the closest you can get is Jonathan Taylor from a talent standpoint. Now, I don't know his full health. There's going to have to be a lot of questions about how hurt is he, or is this more of a, hey, I had this offseason procedure and I also don't want to play for you. So I'm hurt, so let's just put me on the PUP list until you decide how to trade me or get rid of me. If that's the case, I'm making a deal for Jonathan Taylor. No questions asked, no doubt about it.
Yep.
He's better than Cam Akers. He's better than Kareem Hunt at this point. I mean, I don't think he's as good as Chubb, but he's close, and he's right in that ballpark. So if you don't want to take a big step down at running back and you feel like, hey, we beat Cincinnati in week 1, last night was an aberration, we can be much better, then you trade for Jonathan Taylor. That's the move you make if you feel like you're truly a contender in that division. I don't think there's another move to be made. Cam Akers isn't – I mean, he's an upgrade compared to what they have now, but it's nowhere near Chubb. The same for Kareem Hunt. Hutton, I think that it's a no-brainer. If you can get a reasonable package together and you're not giving away everything to get Jonathan Taylor and he's healthy, which that's the big question mark none of us really know, I think you trade for Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, and since he was placed on the PUP list, he's not eligible to return in Indy or practice even until going into Week 5. He posted, though, a video of his training regimen and the fact that he was running at the team facility recently. And the Colts fans were in an uproar because they were like, oh, he's back, and this must indicate that he's on good terms or better terms, maybe not good, better terms than where they were whenever they went into the regular season. But it also means he's showing that he's ready to go, and that's also great for Cleveland if they wanted to make this deal.
It's a hype video for the next team to trade for.
Keep in mind, too, Chad, what Indy was asking for whenever they granted permission for him to seek a trade. They wanted a first-round value in return. Where did they come off of that now because of the quarter of the season would be up by the time they're actually moving him? Don't know.
And what do the Browns think about their chances? I think that's a big part of this. If you feel like, hey, we're really a contender, we showed in that first week we are.
They have a great defense.
This was a hiccup. We have a championship-level defense. Deshaun Watson's going to figure it out. Amari Cooper is really good at receiver. We can get some things done. If you feel that way, then I think you are giving up something pretty significant to go get Jonathan Taylor. I
still say high ceiling, low floor. They're like the Anthony Richardson from the draft for this regular season.
Well, in hunting through 2 weeks, you've been proven correct. Look at week 1 compared to week 2 and those results. And I don't know how anyone can feel good about Deshaun Watson after that game last night and his improvement or lack thereof.
Somehow, transitioning to college football, Travis Hunter and Deion Sanders are taking the high road and feeling good about moving on from the dirty hit that Henry Blackburn took and to the ribs and to the liver of Travis Hunter. And more on the response from Colorado State in a moment, and they're not suspending him. But here's Travis Hunter dressed in a giraffe outfit, discussing how it's just football.
It's football, though. At the end of the day, stuff like that's gonna happen. So I just stay humble. I mean, hey, he did what he was supposed to do. It's football. Something bad's gonna happen on the field sooner or later. We just gotta get up and fight again. That's what I try to do. Get up and fight. Good thing the doctors stopped me, because if there was no doctors there, I would have still been out there playing. But I'm thankful for everybody that helped me that day. Yeah, boy, it's gonna be a speedy recovery.
I love everything about what he said.
Do you love everything about the giraffe costume?
No,
also?
I'm wondering, do you think he sleeps in that?
I don't know, but the bedroom I thought would be a little bit bigger with NIL than he had. That looked like the room I had when I was in college. Like, it's good to see that, guys still have similar college-like apartments.
The pink lights and stuff?
Yeah, I didn't have lighting to that extent, nor did I wear giraffe costumes. I do find it funny when Colorado players talk about humility. I'm just going to stay humble. There's nothing humble about that program and their swagger and the way they go about their business. Hey, this is an alpha-like response, though, from Travis Hunter. I love that he says, hey, this is football. I don't hold any ill will towards them.
The humble part, though, is the response to this. When you...
Well, the humbling part is getting your liver lacerated on a hit.
Well, but what would be...
That's where sports has a way to humble you.
Well, but what would be the response if someone from Colorado did this, if the roles were reversed? The response from the other team would be much more livid than what we've seen from internal aspects of the program.
Yeah,
External, the death threats and stuff have to stop.
Look, Deion Sanders and his sons have done a lot to fan flames, right? It's personal.
Yeah.
What is it? It's personal. And even when it's not personal, like with Matt Rule in Nebraska, they make it personal. So they like to fan flames, like to get this going. I have a hard time believing any coach or player in America, knowing what they know about Henry Blackburn and his mother receiving death threats, would then come back and double down and say, yeah, this guy's trash. He's a dirty player. He deserves everything he's getting. Like, they took the high road, and I give them full marks for that. And Deion's opening statement of his press conference was beautiful. And everything that he said about, hey, the kid's playing hard. He's trying to make his way. He's doing the best he can. And no one should get a death threat because of a game. And he went out of his way to say that to start his press conference. Classy move. by Deion Sanders. Alpha move by Travis Hunter to just sit there and say, even after he's injured, hey, it's football. I've got no ill will towards. I'm good with all that, but I don't think any coach would have come back and doubled down knowing what they know about Blackburn and the death threats.
Yeah, but Jay Norvell says it's just a play that happens sometimes upon further review.
Yeah.
That's not a play that just happens sometimes.
I think
on the sideline, you can go shoulder or you can go right at the rib cage or liver, and Colorado State took their shot in that.
Yeah, they took their shot. I mean, I guess what he's saying is like guys are trying to, if you dislodge the ball. I mean, that was late. The ball wasn't in his hands.
No, it wasn't close.
That was him with a guy in front of him, and he took a big shot at him. He didn't go helmet to helmet. I guess he didn't knock him unconscious.
Well, but then he would absolutely been suspended for that. He would have been out of the game and missed the next half of the next game.
Yeah.
That's why you don't go helmet to helmet.
No, I mean, it was a dirty play. I mean, even, Colorado State was saying we don't coach that, right? Which is an admission that it's not the right play to make. But they're also saying, having talked to him, we don't think he was trying to injure him in that fashion. And I get that. I don't think he was thinking, I'm going to lacerate this guy's liver.
I agree.
And send him to the hospital. I was thinking, I'm going to take a big shot on him.
He's going to feel
put him on the ground and stand over the top of him and show him that I'm the dominant one.
Yeah.
That's what he was trying to do.
Taking the shot instead of not.
Yeah.
And in the moment, Travis Hunter's not making that catch. We knew it because the ball was incomplete.
But good job by Hunter and Deion in their response.
Totally agree. We get back to college and the analysis next.
Looking back on that interaction, it seems like you really don't care. I mean, it seems like you wouldn't have gone about things any differently. But, what does it say to you when there's these business owners who don't understand your vision of what you have for these places? I mean, you're giving them publicity at the end of the day. Even if you're not giving them the best review on the board, you're still putting their name out there on a platform that allows millions of people to realize their business when otherwise they probably would have just remained, a smaller business.
Yeah, he's a moron. It had nothing to do with how I was ranking the pizza. And he said that. He said a million things, like he doesn't want publicity. He keeps talking about it. But he just hated me. He didn't really know who I was. I'm sure it's the way his politics are, because if you go look at his feed, it's what I'd expect. It's extreme left, and those are the types of people who generally hate me before they meet me. But he said he wanted to yell at me before I even stepped in the store, so it had nothing to do with the review. And he's a clown show. He is one of the worst people. He's everything that is wrong with this country, and that's not exaggerating. But he's made up his mind before he meets somebody, picks a fight, and then the rest is history. But for me, it's good. It was the most viral thing we've had in a long time.
Yeah. And have you had any other pizza owners from places you've covered in the past reach out to you and say, wow, we can't believe this guy? Like, look at the great things that you've done for our business because of the One Bite Pizza review.
Yeah. That's the thing that's crazy. There's a lot of things that people could cherry pick that people have said about me that be like, oh, he's a bad guy, this and that. Pizza and small business is not one of them. That pretty uniformly across the board. People like Dave, very good for pizza. He's very good for small business. It's how we're doing this pizza fest. Like, we get places that would never do it, but it's like, we like I did an interview with Lucali, which is one of the most famous pizza places there is. And they're asking Mark, the owner, is like, why'd you agree? We don't see Lucali doing this type of thing. It's like, Dave has done so much good for the pizza industry. This guy didn't care. This guy had no answers. He was just a clown.
Okay, so I'm going to get to the Pizza Fest in just 1 second. I'm just curious, how did you get so into pizza? Was it just something, as a East Coaster, you felt like you needed to insert your voice into the ongoing, never-ending discussion of what pizza is the best, or was there something else behind it?
Yeah, so we talk about anything at Barstool, and probably 10, 12 years ago, myself and Big Cat Dan Katz, who's one of our top guys, we just had a debate. If you could eat one food the rest of your life, what would it be? He said tacos. I said pizza. And then we're like, let's just do it. He said tacos because of burritos, because breakfast burritos. So he was just eating burritos. I just started eating pizza for a month. That's it. And people were asking, well, what do you think of it? And that's where I coined, all right, I'll take one bite and score it. It just kind of clicked. I could tell it resonated with people. And that's where it was born from.
Okay, so now let's talk about your pizza festival. It is called the One Bite Pizza Festival. Very appropriate. It's taking place September 23rd in New York City. How do you prepare for such an event? I mean, so many different options at your disposal in one afternoon. Are you going to have to just forego pizza for the next couple weeks to really prepare yourself?
Well, I'm a trained professional. I don't know about the people going to it. I eat so much pizza, I'm probably better prepared, but I do think that will be a challenge for people because we have so many great places. People have asked how this came about, and it was always suggested, hey, you should do a pizza fest.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Chad, if you were making your power rankings right now for the NFL, is it Dallas number one or do you go somewhere else?
It's definitely Dallas or San Francisco. Okay. I'm going Dallas number one, 49ers too.
Okay. I still lean San Fran.
Okay.
Dallas 2.
Is there a close?
Is it Miami for you, or Philly? Philly hasn't played great.
Philly hasn't looked great based on but I mean,
KC.
The Chargers are 0-2, and the Dolphins won a shootout with them. Not overly impressive. KC lost without Chris Jones and Travis Kelce in Week 1,
but they're back.
They're back. It's like they never left.
But
I feel like they never really left.
It's still weird to look up and see 17-9, and that's the final score with Kansas City getting those guys back, and it's supposed to be all as well, but it was 17-9.
Ravens. I think you got to put Ravens in the mix.
Baltimore is. I'm with you there.
I'm going Cowboys 1, 49ers 2, Chiefs 3, Ravens 4. Just based on what I think will happen, I think the Bills are in that mix, but you can't put
Miami's
them there based on losing to the Jets without Aaron Rodgers.
I'm with you on the top two.
I put Miami in there.
Miami's 3 for
By the way,
me.
Buffalo looked really good in the bounce back against the Raiders this weekend.
Yeah, that's the get-right game.
Yeah.
That's supposed to be what we saw from, for instance, the Giants. The get-right game was supposed to be Arizona, and it ended up being the case, but it took 2.5 quarters to get it going.
And just what we've seen, through 2 weeks, not what we think will happen or not what's been done in seasons past. I mean, the Chiefs are number one in the power ranking based on history, based on what we saw a year ago, based on probably what I think might happen. But if we're going by just what we've seen through 2 weeks, I think it's clear-cut Dallas, San Francisco, 1-2 in either order.
I'm curious about New Orleans. They win last night.
2-0.
2-0. And Carr looks good. I mean, he's got 40-yard bombs.
Well, how about
touchdowns
the NFC South?
40 yards or more. He's got more than any quarterback. You're right.
2-0 Saints, 2-0 Bucks, 2-0 Falcons.
And all the 2-0 teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
But the Saints, and also, where do you put Detroit? I am so conflicted now on what we've seen in the defense of the Lions, too, against Seattle.
Not good defensively in that second week. But I think it's definitely, in either order, it's Dallas, San Francisco at the top, and then you can pick between the other teams. I think Baltimore should get some consideration in that third spot also. And I like Miami and what they've done.
I think Atlanta is still like top. They're between 10 and 15. Maybe they're right at 15. They will climb the ladder if they continue to win this week.
Atlanta, New Orleans. The NFC South is going to be more interesting than we thought. I think that's what we're seeing early on through 2 weeks.
Going back to Deion Sanders and his comments, Chad brought up, and he's right, that Deion taking the high road. Can we play that here, guys, or no? I'm not sure. We're waiting on Jim Nagy, but we may need to reschedule. I'm not sure. Here is Primetime discussing the fact that we're not going to see a suspension in regards to the hit on Travis Hunter and the death threats that we have seen, reported, and admitted to from those within the Colorado football program about how things were handled from a fan base post-game.
Henry Blackburn, I want you guys to record this and run with this. Henry Blackburn is a good player who played a phenomenal game. He made a tremendous hit on Travis on the sideline. You could call it dirty. You could call it he was just playing the game of football. But whatever it was, it does not constitute that he should be receiving death threats. This is still a young man trying to make it in life, a guy that's trying to live his dream and hopefully graduate with honors or degree, committed to excellence and go to the NFL. He does not deserve a death threat over a game. At the end of the day, this is a game. Someone must win, someone must lose. Everybody continues their life the next day. Very unfortunate. I'm saddened if there's any of our fans that's on the other side of those threats. I would hope and pray not, but that kid was just playing the best of his ability, and he made a mistake. So I forgive him. See you, our team forgive him. Travis he's forgiven him. Let's move on. But that kid does not deserve that.
So I don't know if you agree. I think that minute-and-a-half clip, or however long, is the best example of Deion Sanders being a face of a program in a university. That was perfect and spot on from Primetime.
Yeah.
He can wear the hat on the sideline, the cowboy hat in the spring game and the sunglasses at the press conference, and, he can play up the star power that he certainly brings. But that resonates across any college football locker room, any message to any fan base. That was a true leader speaking on behalf of the other end of what took place over the last 48 hours.
I mean, he's a great communicator. We've seen that throughout his playing career, too. He's great at conveying a message and whatever he wants that message to be. I watched the 60 Minutes profile on him and see him in all these pregame interviews and press conferences. And it's easy to see why he would be a good guy to play for.
Yeah.
If you're a player, you think, man, this guy's genuine. He's got my back, and he would be fun and exciting to play for if you're a prospective football player looking for a spot to play college football. I also like how he opened the press conference saying, I want you all to roll on this and play this a lot. I want to make sure that we're rolling on this next message. I like how he called a shot on that one. But that's the perfect message. And he says whether it's dirty or just a hard football play or whatever doesn't matter here. Whatever it was doesn't constitute death threats. It's a game. Everyone's life goes on the next day regardless. It's a game. There has to be a winner and a loser, but it's a game at the end of the day. I thought that was very well said by Deion Sanders. And I'm with you, Hutton. I think one of his better moments as a coach that we've seen is the public-facing guy, the public-facing representative of not just a football program, but of an entire athletic department and an entire university. He is the guy for Colorado. I mean, nationally, he is the guy. Television ratings will show that. Of what people are tuning in, and they're watching in record numbers late into the night, early into the morning.
How about that number?
To watch Deion Sanders. It's crazy to see those numbers. But, yeah, this was one of his best moments as head coach so far. I would agree.
Yeah. Best moment of Lane Kiffin's head coaching tenure at Ole Miss is mentioning that Kevin Steele's not the defensive coordinator, not calling plays at Alabama. Nick Saban shot that down pretty quickly. He doesn't buy it.
No, and this is Lane Kiffin psychological warfare. Lane Kiffin is like the third grader that learns early on how to just get under everyone's skin and constantly does it on the playground. This is not him outwardly disrespecting Nick Saban, his former boss. I don't think he would ever do that. This is not him, going after the Alabama program, but just subtly stating that it might not be Kevin Steele calling plays. And instead it might be someone else. And, hey, I'm not trying to, comes back and says, I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this. You guys, the media, the big bag media, made a big deal out of this and ran with it. I'm simply stating that in our film study as a coaching staff, we saw some things that weren't Kevin Steele. And, hey, maybe, I was there for years. Maybe we know people. I've got people on my staff that were there for years. Maybe we know some things about what's going on and who's calling plays. I think it's a brilliant move by Lane Kiffin. I don't know how much it affects Alabama, but the fact that Nick Saban had to be asked about it and respond to it in a press conference shows that Lane Kiffin got exactly what he wanted from all of that.
Well, what he didn't do was the low-hanging fruit. That is Tommy Rees in that offense.
Yeah.
And, hey, let me point this out, too. I find it interesting that when Cole Kubelik, post-game interview after Ole Miss wins on Saturday, clearly, and Cole admitted this, like in his ear, the production, the director is saying, hey, might want to ask about Bama next week, which I don't think Cole was going to do because they were discussing what had just happened. And so he says, hey, we got Bama next week, back on the road. And instead of making some, mention about the fans, going back in, like probably bringing extra security or whatever jab he wants to point to, he just goes, yeah, guess we got to go to Tuscaloosa. Yep, Nick Saban. Yep, and just walks off. I mean, that's different than what we would expect from Kiffin, who I think it's kind of I don't know if he's trying to distract from what's about to happen in past years or not. Whenever he's joking around and he's making little quips and jokes and trying to jab at the program a bit, or at his own, maybe at himself in some cases, and the time spent there, and football rehab, as many call it, coaching under Saban. He didn't do that this time because I think he knows Bama's for the taking, and I think, Chad, a lot of programs are looking at it that way. This is the year to get them, and maybe it's who knows, last year to get Saban if you want to get a piece of the Alabama Crimson Tide and that they're having a down year, especially on offense, which is horrendous.
Allie in the chat says, Kiffin is the OG Deion, if you ask me. I'm sure he hates having the spotlight on another remote school away from Ole Miss
I don't
and
think
at
so.
Colorado. He's getting
paid $9.5 million.
It's
now.
a different manner in which they go about it. Deion has always been primetime, going back to college.
Yeah.
He's always been this persona. Lane Kiffin is not a big, boisterous personality.
That's right.
He's a little bleep. He's just got that personality, right? He's just the little. There's something I want to say that I won't.
I know.
What word I'm talking about? Yeah. He's an MFer. In other words, he's a guy that just gets under your skin, and he's got that in him, and he loves it. He loves that bit of confrontation. He loves knowing Hutton. If he's coaching against you, Jonathan Hutton, I think I've pissed off Hutton, and it's hilarious to me. It's funny that my friends are mad at me now. It's funny that people hate me on social media because I really don't care. So many guys and girls out there will say, I don't care what people think of me. And when they say that over and over, I don't care what people think. What they're really saying is, I really care what people think. Anyone who tells you over and over how much they don't care what people think about them, they really care what people think about them. I think Lane Kiffin truly doesn't care what people think about him. He's just that type of personality. He's not some big flamboyant dude that's going out there saying anything. And by the way, I use that terminology to describe Lane Kiffin as a compliment. We all know that person, and many times we envy their ability to not give a bleep about what anyone thinks about them. That's him. And he loves that you're mad. He feasts off you being angry about something or you being emotional about something. That's what gets him going because he's not angry and emotional about most things.
And, I mean, the other part of that is underneath him, they've got a really good football-savvy coaching staff. Pete Golding is there now. Of course, that ties in with Alabama, because he jumps over and joins Lane Kiffin as the defensive coordinator. You have Charlie Weiss Jr. calling plays on offense as the co-offensive coordinator, and he's also coaching their quarterbacks. They have a good quarterback room. From him down, it's a nice coaching room underneath him. I just don't know about the element factor of his team, Kiffin's team, going to Bryant-Denny Stadium. But everyone, I think, knows this Bama makeup is very beatable because you don't have to battle the quarterback.
Look, I could see Ole Miss going in and winning pretty easily in this game based on what we've seen from Alabama. I could see Alabama just slamming the door shut in like a 24-13
type
systematic win.
Yeah, I don't
where
feel
they shut
like
down,
I did for the Texas matchup.
Yeah, they shut down Quinshon Judkins and the running attack from Ole Miss, and Jackson Dart can't really get anything going, and that Alabama defense really shows its teeth in this game. I could totally see that for an Alabama team playing at home also. But it also, I mean, look, it's not going to shock me if Ole Miss goes in there and wins because so far through 3 weeks, Ole Miss has looked like the better team than Alabama.
They have. But they've been fortunate with some of the matchups.
Yeah.
Like Tulane not having.
Yeah, Tulane, I mean, you really go back. Tulane had chances, and that was with a backup quarterback throughout the second half of that game. Ole Miss pulls away, and it looks like a great win. But, again, backup quarterback.
Chad, I'm eager for your Friday segment of your top college football games.
Yeah.
Your top 10, because there are 6 ranked matchups on the slate this weekend.
A little bit better than last week's slate.
Yeah. It's the first time there's been this many ranked matchups on a September Saturday since 2006.
Wow.
There were 7 on September 16th, 2006.
Hunt and I cannot wait to dive in after you gave me that bit of info.
By the way, if we just look at the rankings right now, week 11, there will be 7 ranked teams facing each other in week 11.
It's takeoff time.
Jim Nagy joins us next. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network rolls on.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see like senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well.
Yeah.
And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Chad, we've been discussing Colorado and Deion a lot. Everything he says is, we dive in and try to figure out whether or not he's taking the shot here or there. He's wearing the sunglasses. Is he wearing a bigger hat today than he was yesterday based on comments? One of the comments that he made recently was he's just trying to get his guys to the Senior Bowl.
Oh, that's a great endorsement for our next guest.
Yes, Jim Nagy joins us, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Joins us weekly on Tuesdays. Jim, good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Yeah, guys, good to see you too.
Hey, the Offensive Player of the Week for the Reese's Senior Bowl this past weekend, Jaden Daniels. This is the LSU that I expected to see against Florida State, and he brought it in a near perfect game against Mississippi State's defense.
Yeah, I think that was the Jaden we all expected to see against Florida State, and we didn't get it. But he's a really good player, guys. I mean, of all the quarterbacks we evaluated last year, so Jaden was eligible to play in the Senior Bowl a year ago. It felt like he was the most improved one from beginning to end, and that whole thing kind of snowballed on LSU in that opener. Florida State was just too tough. I mean, their offense was too much to handle for that LSU defense. But Jaden's a really good player, man. And you're right. He played basically mistake-free football over there in Starkville the other day. His numbers were incredible. And that's a competitive Mississippi State football team. And they put it on them.
Yeah, especially known for defense, right? Defensive-minded coach there now. And to do it there, that's a good judgment on where he is right now. I'm curious, though, Jim, from your perspective, how much do you actually think back to what a player was? For instance, with Daniels, he's at Arizona State, and he ends up transferring into the SEC and at LSU. Do you see and track the development of a player as well as just in the scouting background that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's critical to do that because then it really helps you gauge what the ceiling of the player is. So, yeah, we go way back. I think my first time I ever saw Jaden play was his true freshman year there at Arizona State. We had a receiver that played in the Senior Bowl named Brandon Ayuk, who's turned out to be a really first-round draft pick, a really good player for the San Francisco. Yeah, not bad. San Francisco 49ers, and he went off. It was at Michigan State. They played Arizona State, played at Michigan State, and Ayuk had a good game, and you saw this scrawny little freshman quarterback that was about 160 pounds out there playing. So he and I joked about it when we saw him at SEC Media Days when I was up there seeing you guys in Nashville. Jaden and I laughed about that because I asked him what he was weighing. He was like 208 pounds that day. Like, man, you're up like 50 pounds since your freshman year. He's like, yeah, it's been steady weight. So certainly he's come a long way.
Jim, I love Michael Penix Jr. in that Washington offense and the way he operates that offense with such consistency and accuracy throughout the game. What do you make of his play so far this season, and what do you think about him as a possible pro prospect?
Well, they've got a couple of teams on the schedule that look like, kind of big boy early season games, Boise State, Michigan State. I don't think he's been truly tested yet. They came out, they were kind of feeling out Boise State. I did watch that tape. kind of feeling them out for about a half, and then kind of like a boxer, they were taking their jabs, and then in the second half they do what Washington does. They went for the haymakers. They started throwing the deep bombs, and that's what he does as well as anybody off that play action pass and just hitting you deep. And to Penix's, he does have 3 really good wide receivers. 2 of them, Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan, are 2 of our top graded receivers for the Senior Bowl this year. So he's got weapons, but yeah, in terms of off the play action game, he might be the best in college football. He's certainly great taking those deep shots.
And you mentioned with Washington and some other, Power 5 programs, maybe they ease into the season a little bit. Oftentimes you don't start with your staff the real scouting process until this week with Power 5 guys. Why?
Just because you're watching them against smaller schools. This is really the first 2, 3, 4 weeks of the season from like an NFL scouting perspective. And that's what we tried to bring here is you're watching mostly small school guys. You're watching the smaller school guys play up in competition rather than the bigger school guys play down. So, for these guys in the SEC, I had an agent call me yesterday and ask me about an SEC player. I was like, man, I haven't even got to him yet. Like, there's no point in watching that tape. They've played three really small schools, group of 5 or FCS level schools. So what's the point? Why don't we just wait till, they play some SEC, get in the heart of the SEC schedule and spend the time on it then? Because I feel like if you're watching that stuff this early, you're just kind of spinning your wheels. You're not getting a really good evaluation.
And you can really learn about the small school talent, and then the coaches and the scouts in the league want the Senior Bowl to be they want that to be where you see a player in a different scheme, or maybe he's maybe he's a pass rusher, defensive end. Can he play linebacker? And you can see them against the better talent there too. And some of it just works out to the player's benefit based on scheme that they're in and scheme they're facing. But Colorado State is a good example of that this past weekend, Jim, with Tony Horton. Explain what you picked up on based on scheme and how Colorado State used Horton to impress future NFL scouts and coaches that will be on their radar.
Yeah, so he was one of our players of the week. He was the co-offensive player of the week with Jaden Daniels. But yeah, what they did with Horton, he caught 16 balls the other night against Colorado. I don't know how many were just shallow crossers. They were running kind of a mesh concept underneath where they're just running 2 crossers, dragging across the middle. Probably 13 of his catches came like that. But again, you're always trying to look at what are the takeaways. Like, okay, they're going to keep using him like this, and it's great. It's what they're doing. Colorado State in man coverage. They never really went to a zone. So they were running those concepts. But the takeaways were, one, he's super tough. I mean, you watch the guy working into traffic. He is not afraid to get hit. So that's one cool takeaway. And then the others, you're running him into some corners across the middle, and you see this guy who's 6'2" just slam on the brakes, stick his foot in the ground, get upfield. And not a lot of guys that are built that kind of angular, if you will, kind of a leggy, and can really slam on the brakes the way that Horton was slamming on the brakes. So, and he's a really good punt returner. You see that in his skill set too, the ability to stop and change direction. So he had a great night. He threw a touchdown, threw a dime on a touchdown to his tight end. But yeah, really good all around game. But you're not going to see everything at the college level you want to see from these guys, and that's the value of having the Senior Bowl is we bring them down here and showcase them a little bit differently than sometimes their colleges use them.
I was reading this past weekend. There are some in the league that believe this is the best quarterback crop that we've seen, I don't know, since whenever, coming into the draft next year. Do you buy that already?
We will see. I think certainly that the knowns are Caleb Williams and Drake May are very good prospects. They'll go in the top 5, top 10 easily. We're big fans of Bo Nix, just based off what he did last year in his first year at Oregon, coming from Auburn and really getting rid of some bad habits he developed at Auburn. Really cleaned up his game a lot, and they haven't really played anyone yet. I take that back. Texas Tech is a good football team. That's a better win than it might look like to some people. But now they're going to get into the meat of it. They've got Coach Prime coming out there, and we'll see. We'll see where the rest of the class goes. I think there's a lot of guys that still need to prove it. There's a lot of guys in new situations. You got Devin Leary from NC State to Kentucky, and I think on the show we've talked about Sam Hartman going from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. So there's still some guys. Now we're getting into the conference schedules, and now we'll start seeing who's going to separate from who. but there's certainly from a pure numbers volume perspective, it's certainly the biggest class we've had in the last 6 years since I've been here at the Senior Bowl.
Jim, Ole Miss at Alabama, the big SEC game this weekend. Wide receiver Trey Harris is a guy that you're very interested in. Why?
Yeah, I hope he's healthy. We're interested because he was a transfer from La Tech, and we didn't really know a lot about him. Coming from the Group of 5 level, he was one of those guys that needed to prove it. Well, then, he bust out on the stage week 1 with a 4-touchdown game against Mercer. So again, FCS level opponent, you got to pump the brakes a little bit. But no, I mean, this guy's, again, 6'2". He can run routes. He can run after the catch. So there's a lot to like. So there was a couple guys in that matchup. Like, we hope he's healthy. He's been banged up. Quinshad Junkins, the running back, has been backed up. That's allowed a guy like Ulysses Bentley, who's our stock up player of the week this week after what he did last week at Georgia Tech. He's a guy that if I'm a Crimson Tide fan, I wouldn't get comfortable that Quinshad Junkins isn't playing in this football game, because what we watched of Ulysses Bentley from his time at SMU as a young guy a couple of years ago, really talented guy. He's an NFL talent. So that's going to be a great matchup in Tuscaloosa. I feel like I was just up there a couple weeks ago for Texas, and now here we are turning around a couple weeks later with a big Ole Miss matchup. So that'll be a good one in Tuscaloosa on Saturday night.
Where are you headed this weekend?
I am headed to New Orleans for my daughter's 15th birthday. But I will be going to the Tulane game. We are taking our daughter over there. My wife's going to take her on a little shopping trip, and I'm going to hit some football. And then we have dinner planned at night. So that's family took me to Auburn last year for parents weekend for my son in college. And now I've got this game in New Orleans because of my daughter.
How much do you want to be at Notre Dame, Ohio State?
Would love to be there. There's no better time to be in South Bend. I've been to a lot of games in South Bend this time of year. You get, late September to mid-October when those colors are changing on campus in South Bend. That's a beautiful campus, one of my favorites in the country. And this time of year, crisp air, man, it's going to be an awesome matchup.
This may sound extremely dumb, probably. Can Marvin Harrison Jr. do anything to help himself moving forward? Can he only hurt himself?
No, I don't know about that. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, again, when you really look at it, we used to be able to do this when I was with the Seahawks. All the teams can do it now. This is one thing that's made scouting a lot easier over the years. Now that tape is digitized and you don't have to throw in an actual beta tape or super VHS tape and spin through it, and all this stuff is, digitally broken down. We used to be able to watch guys based off the prospect matches. So if we had a certain grade level on a corner against a wide receiver, we would only watch the receiver against those draftable corners, right? And over the course of the season, he's not going to play against a draftable guy every week. He's just picking on people that are far inferior. So in a game like this, there's going to be a corner, Cam Hart for Notre Dame, who's a big 6'2" corner, big long arm corner. So it's an NFL type matchup. And they'll want to see him compete and how he holds up physically against an NFL-sized corner. He's not going to see a lot of that, even on the Ohio State schedule. So I wouldn't agree with that. I think a guy like Marvin can always help himself.
Jim Nagy's been our guest, executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. Players like Puka Nacua roll through, and you've got the still of the draft so far in Los Angeles, Jim.
How about that? How about what Puka's doing, man? Unbelievable. What does he have? First player in NFL history with 10 catches and 100 yards in his first 2 games. I mean, unreal. Yeah, he was a fun guy to scout at BYU. You saw a lot of the same stuff that you're seeing now. You saw the ability to get open, and he's not super explosive. So some of the run after catch stuff, crafty would have been the word to kind of describe Puka when he was coming out last year, kind of sneaky athletic, if you will. But it's cool to see it translate because he's an awesome, awesome young man. He was a lot of fun to have down here in Mobile. And what it tells you is that if he's got Matthew Stafford's full confidence and Sean McVay's full confidence to make him the guy right out of the chute as a rookie, it just tells you how dependable he is, tells you how smart he is. A lot of these rookies are swimming in the playbook right now, and he's obviously on the same page with a longtime vet like Matt Stafford. So he's got it up here, which is pretty cool.
The players that you're seeing play great out of the gate. Been through the Senior Bowl. Jim Nagy is in charge of all of it down there in Mobile, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl. We love this each week, Jim. get back to it, and we'll catch up next weekend.
All right, guys. Have a great weekend.
Enjoy New Orleans.
All right, guys.
Always love his take on college football weekends on what he's seen.
He's got me wanting some crisp air in South Bend, Indiana, also, with that description of that campus and what it's going to be like this weekend. That would be one. That's a bucket list for me. Never been.
Me either. Yeah. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'm in.
Tell me when. Let's get after it. Coming up, we do just that. So the case that the running backs are making about needing more, it was made last night. I'll explain. Plus, the case of Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett, it was made last night. Chad goes in on that. Straight ahead. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate. We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Coming up in 20 minutes, John McClain will join us. An hour from now, Curt Schilling is on the show. Hope you'll join us on YouTube. Search out OutKick. Hit subscribe. Join Chad in the chat. Is it busy today?
Yeah, chat's been really good. My Braves are they got busy losing after clinching that division. They just decided to go ahead and lose 4 straight. Hopefully they win a couple more before the end of the year so they get home field throughout.
Well, but I thought 2 weeks ago you weren't too worried about that.
I'm not worried about it, but I would like for them to win a few coming up. I mean, they won 3 out of 4 in Philly. Then they got swept in Miami and got blown out in pretty much every game.
Oh, they've won a few.
They got blown out in Philly or at home against Philly. Spencer Strider on the mound. I just want them to get home field throughout. And they're 4 games up on the Dodgers right now for home field advantage in the National League playoffs. That's what I'm concerned with.
Orioles have maintained.
Yeah.
Been 5-5.
Big win over the Astros last night.
Yeah. They've at least been steady. They haven't dropped. And that's great. I don't know how they've maintained this all year.
Yeah, the Braves were 21-8 in August. They're now 8-9 in September, and they have the 3rd to worst ERA in baseball. They have been resting some of their starters and doing some things to the pitching staff, but a little bit concerning. I don't want to go in on that much of a low note going into October and the playoffs. So it's time to pick it back up. I'm not too worried. This is a historically great offense, but it's time to pick it back up.
How worried are you about the offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and concerning is it about Matt Canada calling the plays that they brought back this year and Mike Tomlin's decision?
Here's a number for you, Hutton. 12.3. That was Kenny Pickett's QBR last night. And their win, grant you, a win over the Cleveland Browns.
Is that higher or lower than week 1?
That is
against San Fran.
That's maybe higher than my ACT score, quite frankly, but probably lower than San Fran's. I don't know. Here's the deal. That offense is awful, and they win last night because of a mammoth effort defensively, and they win because Deshaun Watson was terrible in that game also. They're not winning because of Matt Canada. 12.3 QBR, 50% completion percentage, 222 passing yards in that game. Not going to get the job done. And when Pittsburgh Steelers fans, known as some of the best and smartest in all of football, are chanting fire Matt Canada during the game, loudly, where you could hear it on the broadcast, that is not a good sign. This guy's not getting it done. One of the dads on my kid's softball team, huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan, came up to me after the game last night, watching the game on his phone, and said, please, 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 tell everyone how Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin needs to fire Matt Canada in season if they're going to do anything. And you know what I told him, Hutton? I said, you know what, because I like you, Danny, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to tell everyone that Matt Canada needs to go. Here's the deal. Kenny Pickett, I believe, has what it takes to be a franchise quarterback. I'm way higher on him than, let's say, a Mac Jones, who many people are waiting to see what's going to happen. Obviously higher on him than Justin Fields and what we've seen. He's not there right now, and I think it's in large part because there's an offensive coordinator that is not getting the job done. They need to move on from Matt Canada. Kenny Pickett's not getting any better under Matt Canada offensively, and that Steelers team, this is the formula for how they're going to have to win. 2 defensive touchdowns? Well, that's not sustainable. They're going to have to be better offensively. They're not going to be better with Matt Canada as the offensive coordinator. It's that simple.
Cleveland's on the other end of that. At least the Steelers won the game, right? But
yeah.
Cleveland also in a bad spot, losing Nick Chubb, Chad, and to awful injury. And it has sparked the running back debate and the salary, the money, the franchise tag, the discrepancy in pay versus other skilled positions. They're at $8 million off. The only position lower, kicker, punter, long snapper, grouped together there, that would receive less on a tag based on the structure of the salary cap, and that's through the CBA. That was collectively bargained. But last night's injury to Chubb on Monday night, that is exactly the reason why running backs have an argument to be heard and quite frankly, I agree with them on where they're coming from here, because it's the only position where a player can take a hit like that and it's deemed clean and not penalized, fined, doesn't hurt your team. It's just a bad circumstance that the injury occurred. I'm not saying it's a dirty hit, by the way, but there is no concept of a defenseless running back. You can't necessarily just randomly hit a wide receiver like that when he's not having the football and get away with it. But from a running back perspective, they're looking at wide receiver going, there's a defenseless receiver. There's no defenseless running back. You can take them out at any point, and it's just deemed part of the position. Even kickers and punters are protected more by the rules. We certainly know about quarterback, and the line of scrimmage has certainly changed on rules that that they enforce that you can and can't do now, either going low or using certain blocks on kickoff returns, wedge, all that's gone. But you can take the hit like that to one of your highest paid players on a roster, and it's deemed fine and part of the game. That's their argument. Their timing of it is way off, a lot like the NFLPA in general. But when I see all the comments from players, and look, I'm not knocking the comments. The sentiment is, man, this is awful for him. This is exactly why they're arguing for the pay. The running backs were ridiculed and laughed at over the Zoom meeting that they held. I was harping on the fact that they held it later than when they should have. But you also have running backs who are underpaid looking at Patrick Mahomes getting the contract we reworked yesterday. By the way, Patrick Mahomes remains underpaid. You still make that argument that he's underpaid for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the value that he brings to them is more value than any player in the NFL currently for that roster. Point being, they're not getting what they should be getting because they don't band together and actually work at getting something done. They just move on to the next game, the next play, the next hit. And in the running back's perspective, Chad, it's more of the same. You take the hits, you're carted off, and it's used the example of why you don't pay running backs. I think you can point to the example of why they deserve to pay more, to be paid more based on the fact that it is open season on the position at any point in the game. You can't go low when you're sacking the quarterback now. You can't go at the legs. You can't go at the head. It's tough to even figure out if you can touch them with a finger or it's roughing the passer. There's no roughing the running back. And in Nick Chubb's case, he's now suffered the second injury to that same knee because of it.
Hutton, there's positions in football where obviously you have to be tough, right? You got to be tough and tough-minded and big physically to withstand the trenches if you're an offensive or defensive lineman, as an example. I really think, to your point, the running back is the last true gladiator in all of football. That's the last position. You hit the nail on the head with this, because you can sum it up by saying, there are defenseless receivers. The quarterback is always seen as defenseless. Right. That running back is a magnet for enormous bodies to pile up on top of them whenever they carry the football. It is everyone on defense go, take shots at the legs, take shots up high, get this guy to the ground, and then when he's on the ground, pile up on top of him. And then have him get back up, hand the ball to the ref, and do it all over again. It is a tough, tough position. And it's the one spot, quite frankly, that I look at and say, it's the same play in that position as it was in the 70s or 80s for a lot of these guys. Not that different. Everywhere else in football, way different. Go watch footage on NFL films from the 70s and what guys got away with in the secondary with hits. And I'm not saying that's good for the sport when you can headhunt and try to knock people out of games that way. But, man, the running back position for the way they're paid compared to everyone else. I'm not trying to cry poverty over running backs that are highly paid in the NFL, or, I'm not comparing it to a coal miner in West Virginia or anything like that. So let's not get too carried away. But in football terms, in the NFL, I believe the running back is the last true gladiator of the sport, the way they have to play the game.
And, I mean, just in the and it's based on how the cap structure works and the franchise tag. And I understand why the ownership and general managers and how they use it this way, because you can use up the running back. If you draft someone in the first round, you could have them for 7 years if you so choose, based on the franchise tag, and then you move on to the next guy because they're so battered, and the tread is off the wheel, so to speak, off the tire. But it's an $8 million gap between running back and the next position as they look up at the tag money and how it's allocated if the team decides to use it. The only position that receives less on the tag is kickers and punters, and they're at like $4 or $5 million, I believe. Running backs 10.1.
It's crazy.
And then you've got guys who are making more than that for teams that were 5 or 6 teams that are paying running backs top dollar, and those guys are going out, and the other guys are being franchise tagged to keep that number relatively even. Jonathan Taylor is a good example of that. It's the position where if Taylor returns and rushes for 1,500 yards, let's say, as he comes back, or 1,200, he's not helping himself by doing that to get an extension on the contract. Same would be for if he started the season in week 1 and ran for 2,000 yards. He's not helping himself to get a contract extension. The only thing that's coming towards him is the franchise tag that's lower than any other position, and where he could take a hit just like we saw Chubb take.
If it's just about business and about money, and that's ultimately what great athletes want, and nothing else matters as much as that, tough for me to find the business decision in wanting to play running back.
Yeah, and I brought
some
that
other
up
positions.
This offseason. It's like I
mean,
wonder,
I get the glory in it, and I know guys, true dudes, they want the football in their hands, and you can get it a lot more in your hands if you're a running back at times. So I understand that desire to want to carry the ball, want to score touchdowns, want to break off a big run, want to be tough, physical, all those things. That's inherent in a lot of these players. But if we're getting into more and more of an era of business decisions with top football players, I don't know why you pick that position and you don't just try to play something else. I really don't.
Yeah, and you're growing up for them, they would have seen some of the top backs in the league.
Yeah, Emmitt Smith, Barry Sanders.
Yes.
Well, that's me growing up. These guys more.
Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, Adrian Peterson's a great example.
Adrian Peterson, Chris Johnson, and others.
Sean Alexander.
No doubt. And, those guys were watching the players you were just referencing, Chad. And now, if you're in middle school, going into high school, whatever, the players that are playing your current position, maybe the best player on the field is playing running back or quarterback, you're hearing the guys that are saying, yeah, it's not worth it anymore. Don't do it.
Well,
so I think a lot of times the perception is built by those that you're emulating.
Yeah, and are you more prone to wear a Justin Jefferson jersey or a Jonathan Taylor jersey if you're a kid today? I think it's just shifted to receiver's the way cooler position regardless if you're a kid.
And the rules are set up that way,
and
too,
obviously
right?
Quarterback's always been cool.
Yeah.
That's never going to go out of style.
Now corner and pass rush is cool.
Yeah.
A defensive tackle now, too.
Quarterback never going out of style.
Chad, Austin Eckler, there's no timeline for his return to the Chargers lineup. They have Joshua Kelly there in the backfield. But
who's a good player?
A good player.
He's
but
not Eckler, but he's
not
a good
Eckler
player.
in terms of scoring. But the issue in Los Angeles isn't scoring. It's the fact that their defense allows the opponent to score so much. And Eckler is a key factor for them. And they're staring down 0-2. And so are the Minnesota Vikings, who
staring down 0-3.
Staring down over 3. It's 0-2 versus 0-2 this week in Minnesota this coming Sunday. And you've got the Vikings who just got rid of Dalvin Cook by their own choosing. Well, Cook's choosing too, but they weren't going to pay him the money that he was owed this upcoming season. And instead of paying him, they let him loose.
Yeah, can Austin Eckler play linebacker? That's the question I would ask, because that's where they need help.
Saquon Barkley, week to week with the ankle sprain for the New York Giants. He went out late in the game in Arizona. They play Thursday night in San Francisco. He's not playing in that game. But the week to week element of this, Chad, goes back to why there was hesitancy on the Giants' part to give him any contract extension, and instead wanted to just put him on the tag and try to work something out after the fact. Well, he's been banged up throughout his career, and he's banged up again. And the reason why the Giants were the Giants a year ago, in my opinion, Barkley was leading them from week 1 on. They started in Nashville week 1, and he was phenomenal, and he was healthy. And now they're going through a stretch where they're lucky to be 1-1, quite frankly, with a comeback that we've not seen. The Giants haven't seen. 150 times they've been trailed by 21 points or more, and they've never come back to win the game until this past Sunday. And now they see their top player limp off with an ankle issue that is going to require more time than just a Thursday night football and an extra weekend to recover.
Yeah, this is just once again more of the last gladiators of the NFL headlines. We've gone through now 3 injuries involving top guys in the league. And the last headline, Hutton, is a guy who was a top guy in the league that's about to get traded, possibly to the team that just lost their gladiator of a running back.
Yeah, it's Jonathan Taylor or maybe Cam Akers.
Cam Akers, yeah.
Cam Akers, too, who's benched in week 2, and he's looking for a landing spot, looking for a team and a coach that wants to use him. Stefanski would be that landing spot because he wants the running game to lead the charge offensively, even with Deshaun Watson.
Well, he needs it to lead the charge with Watson's play so far, too.
No doubt. We come back, and John McClain leads the charge. More NFL discussion next.
Speaking of whacked out, I don't understand this. I don't know why you do this, but Colorado State head coach Norvell decided he was going to take a shot. He was going to take a shot at Deion Sanders. Now, look, I don't blame you. You got to do what you got to do. And, of course, Ryan Clark on Twitter said, well, it's racist. Everything's racist. Jay Norvell said, I take my sunglasses and my hat off when I'm talking to adults. That's what my mother taught me. Well, Ryan Clark said, well, is that insinuating that Deion's mother didn't teach that? Ryan Clark's an idiot. But this guy might be a bigger idiot, or he might be an evil genius. Let's hear from him.
And I sat down with ESPN today, and I don't care if they hear it in Boulder. I told them I took my hat off and I took my glasses off, and I said, when I talk to grown-ups, I take my hat and my glasses off. That's what my mother taught me. So.
Yeah, well, good for you, man. Good for you. I'll tell you why it's good for you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we got us a situation in Boulder this weekend. Game day is there. High noon is there. Fox is there. It's going to be glorious. And this just made me stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning. I think the game starts like at 10 o'clock our time. Look, you can acquiesce to this guy. I mean, what is this guy? He's won 2 college football games. I know he's the greatest to ever play. Good, that was a long time ago. A lot of guys are the greatest to ever play their position a long time ago. So good for Jay Norvell. Good for him, but I will tell you something. I guarantee you this, and this is a take you will not hear from anybody else. The black kids on his team are going, yeah? Really? I like Deion. I think Deion's kind of cool. I'd like to play for Deion. Seriously. I mean, as soon as I heard that, I go, hey, man, you won your little show here, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the game. But the kids on your own team are like, hey, man, I think Deion's pretty cool. This guy here, Norvell, reminds me of every high school, grade school, CYO coach I ever had. I'm telling you. That's what the kids on his team are thinking. That's exactly what the kids on his team are thinking. They are. Don't at me about it either. Here's Deion's response.
Security guard.
That's Jimmy. Talk to him, Jimmy. What Jimmy? Jimmy, talk to him, Jimmy. Y'all know after the last. Talk to him, Jimmy. Y'all know after the last. Come on, Craig. Y'all know after the last. You don't even know. You don't even know.
Yeah, well, Deion Sanders is full of shit. I mean, let's just be honest right here. He's full of crap. Because all they do, his son did, he's done, is talk about the other team. Like, we don't talk about nobody. No, you're full of crap. Look at what his son said after the game. Matt rule this, Matt rule that.
One of our longtime friends, colleague, and Pro Football Hall of Fame selector, John McClain, joins us. Hot Mic with Hunt and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. SportsRadio610.com is where you can hear and read his great work. John, good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you very much.
John, I wanted to start with a game last night. Deshaun Watson, a guy you're very familiar with, 2 face mask penalties in that game on him. He shoves an official out of the way, and he accounts for 2 turnovers that lead to 2 Pittsburgh touchdowns. Not a great start. Certainly not a good game for Deshaun Watson in that one against the Steelers.
And they lost their best offensive player, Nick Chubb, for the season, which should be a huge loss for them and put even more pressure on Watson. In that first victory over Cincinnati, he didn't play very well, and the defense played great. Now, Jim Schwartz has got that defense playing better than I've ever seen it. You guys know the last time Cleveland started 2-0? 1993. And they had a chance last night. Watson, he's getting eviscerated on the talk shows and by the fans, especially in light of Baker Mayfield starting 2-0 as the new quarterback at
Tampa.
Tampa,
yep.
They played great, too.
Isn't it weird that the NFC South was supposed to be a pushover like the AFC South, and you got 3 unbeaten teams. You got Tampa Bay, Atlanta, and New Orleans, with Carolina bringing up the rear. But this is a game that the Titans could win because the Titans are going to shut down the run anyway because they're great against the run. And I think they'll get all over Watson. A lot of pressure on him, and he does not look like the quarterback who played here in 2020, his last good season. I thought with the off season to get back with his team, everybody gave him a mulligan for last season because of his suspension and the fact he missed 2021 because of lawsuits. I thought he'd come back with a bang, but he's come back with a whimper.
Yeah, in 8 games now as the Browns starter, 11 total touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not good. Not a good start. Kareem Hunt's reportedly visiting with the Browns today. That according to Ian Rappaport. Cam Akers is on the trade block. Who knows what happens with Jonathan Taylor? Who do you think the Browns turn to, knowing that they're talking with Kareem Hunt now, John, and considering that they're going into a week against the Titans in week 3, they return back home to Cleveland against a defense that stops the run and wants to put it on Watson based on what we've seen?
What I want to see is if Watson plays like that again, will the fans start to boo him? Because, you know, they know he's the highest paid quarterback at $230 million fully guaranteed. And they know he got a mulligan last year. But if the Titans intercept the pass or have a strip sack early, I wonder if the fans will turn on him. I've seen him do that to quarterbacks during my almost 50 years of covering the NFL. And Kareem Hunt was there. They know him. I don't see him giving up a high pick for Jonathan Taylor. The Texans have their number 1 pick. The Texans have, I think, another pick up there to complete the Watson trade. But they're desperate because right now they don't want everything to be on his right arm because he hadn't done anything to inspire confidence that he can play the way he needs to play in a division tough from top to bottom.
John, I was curious to see if Titans fans were going to boo Ryan Tannehill at home if he started the way he finished in New Orleans the week before. But instead, Tannehill went out there and played really well for that Titans offense, hit some big plays. Titans get a big win. Watching the Titans beat the Chargers, watching the Jags flail around offensively against Kansas City, Does it change any of the thinking in the AFC South, or do you leave those two games feeling pretty much the same about both teams in that division?
One thing that surprised me about the Jacksonville game, the defense played well. Trevor Lawrence did not. He missed open receivers with a lot of pressure on him. Texans play at Jacksonville. They beat them in Jacksonville last year, and they usually play well at least once a season when they play against the Jaguars. But Jacksonville's offense just looked discombobulated. Don't know how much that had to do with the Chiefs' defense. But Kansas City's offense wasn't the kind of offense we're used to seeing. But, I think right now we know the Titans have a really good defense again. The key is the offense, the running game, and how Ryan Tannehill can operate off that running game. Because if he's got play action, that's what he's so good at. If he doesn't have it, he's not a real good quarterback. Everybody knows it. But I'll guarantee you the coaches as well as the fans gave a big after that game by Ryan Tannehill.
John, you're there in Houston covering the Texans and C.J. Stroud. You've been high on the rookie early on with not a lot of great things going on around him. What gives you confidence in C.J. Stroud and what you've seen so far?
I've written 2 columns this week for sportsradio610.com, one after the game and one today. The one today is there can be no doubt for anybody that's watched Stroud, they found the second franchise quarterback in team history behind Deshaun Watson. His stats in the first 2 games compared to Watson's stats in his first 2 starts, it came after coming off the bench for a half, Stroud's are better. And what makes Stroud's interesting, he's taken over a bad team that's been rebuilding for 3 years. Watson took over a team that won the AFC South and reached the second round of the playoffs. And so he has an offensive line. Titans think they got problems in the offensive line. People are like, oh, my goodness, the Texans had 4 starters out against Indianapolis. That was 4 starters, 3 of whom were backups and had replaced other starters. They're on their second left tackle, third left guard, third center, third right tackle. The only player who's played since going back to the preseason's regular starter, Shaq Mason, a right guard they acquired from the Bucs in a trade, and he hasn't played well. So therefore, they cannot run the ball at all. They average 2 yards a carry. And Damon Pierce is a good running back, but he can't get any room. He keeps getting hit in the backfield. When they play the Titans, they might be able to get 20 yards. But when the IR, first short-term IR, comes in 2 more games, they'll get back their right tackle and their center. Laramie Tunsil missed this game, their best player on the team. He should be back. But Stroud, to be able to do what he's done, no interceptions, no forcing in coverage, a lot of one-step drops, firing the ball accurately, perfectly placed, had a touchdown pass called back in this game, second most completions by a rookie quarterback in 2 games in history to Joe Burrow in 2020. And right now, he looks a whole lot better than Bryce Young, who I watched last night. And then Anthony Richardson left the game with a concussion after running for 2 touchdowns. But people here, as you guys know, if you got a franchise quarterback, it's easier to build around him than to continually look for a quarterback that you hope can take you to the Super Bowl.
John, what's the panic level in Cincinnati with the calf injury now a larger concern because it's clearly been re-aggravated? They were already dialing back the playbook over the first couple of weeks due to that issue for Joe Burrow. And now they go into a week where they're playing on Monday night. Jake Browning's the backup, and without Burrow at his best, who are the Bengals?
Their team is going to be fighting for a wild card berth. I picked Baltimore to win the division and win the Super Bowl because I just wanted to be different. Right now, I'm feeling confident, although so much can change after early in the season. It's only a barometer for the immediate, not for the long term. When you see Burrow during a game on the bench with his leg across his knee and he's got a little contraption massaging his calf, you know he's got a problem. And there's nobody over there massaging it for him. And it's not going to get better when you play. And I saw a stat that told about how quick he dropped back to pass last season, and he's about half of that this season. And their running game's not real good to take some pressure off of him. But still, that division is so competitive. Cincinnati has a lot of talent. And Zach Taylor could say, hey, 2 years ago we started 0-2 and we reached the Super Bowl.
Johnny, your thoughts on the Chicago Bears? They lose in what was a very winnable road game against Tampa Bay. You mentioned earlier, Baker Mayfield played great in this game. Justin Fields did not. And now at 0-2, they hit the road to go to Kansas City to face the 1-1 Chiefs.
Well, we know they're going to lose that game, of course. But thing is, they look bad doing it. They expected Fields to be better. Now, he's getting sacked a lot, not like C.J. Stroud. Stroud's been sacked 11 times. He's been hit 19 times. And he's on a pace for 93 sacks, which would shatter the record that David Carr set in the Texans' inaugural season of 2002 when he was sacked 76 times. But Stroud is still completing a lot of passes, and he's just been tremendous. Fields is not. He's making the same mistakes he made last year. Now there's talk, well, maybe they should tank to try to get a quarterback because they do have not only their pick, but they have Carolina's first-round pick, and it should be a deep quarterback draft. And then maybe Fields would go somewhere where they could better utilize him. People are saying, well, you shouldn't have Matt Eberflus, a defensive coordinator, as your head coach, which is BS, because if you get the right coordinator and quarterback coach and play caller, of course, a guy can work with a defensive head coach like Bill Belichick and Pete Carroll and Tom Landry and a lot of other coaches that have been tremendous throughout history, starting on the defensive side of the ball.
Excuse me, John. Matt Eberflus feels like he's already been fired, and the Bears are going to have an opening. Would Deion Sanders work in the NFL?
I didn't think Deion would work in college football. Now I've watched every minute of every game that he has. I passed up a trip to Waco to watch Texas just hammer Baylor because I want to see Oregon and Colorado. You know, it's must-see TV. I think it could work, yes. And he's shown you got to have a quarterback, and he's got one. His son Shador, who if he came out in this draft, he'd be a high number one pick. If he waits a year, stays with Daddy, and he and Travis Hunter come out together, and he might be the first overall pick in 2025. But I believe that Deion, based on the success he had at Jackson State, and I wondered how serious he would be about coaching, and he is. And the success he's had in Colorado, which considering they won one game last year and he had 87 new players, is one of the all-time great coaching jobs. And they're so entertaining to watch. I took a nap so I could stay up and watch the whole game Saturday night and early Sunday morning. So I think it would. But, you know, you got to be an owner and you got to be a general manager that doesn't mind the head coach dominating everything.
John McClain with us. John, Denver is in Miami this week at 0-2. What do you make of what we've seen from Russell Wilson and the new pairing with Sean Payton?
Russell Wilson's played pretty well. You know, they hit the Hail Mary and then missed a 2-point pass to force overtime. And I was glad. I don't like Sean Payton. I don't like what he did to Nathaniel Hackett. And guess what? He's got clock management issues. That's one of the things he was critical of Hackett for having, clock management issues. Is it him? Is it Russell Wilson? Is it a combination of? They ought to lose this game. They've lost 2. I'd love to see him start 0-3 because I just, after watching him do that to Nathaniel Hackett, I thought it was so low class. So every time he loses, as far as I'm concerned, that's good.
Yeah, and they had an 18-point lead at home. And then they were outscored 32-6 from like midway through the second quarter until that last second Hail Mary. I mean,
makes it even better.
Yeah. John, as always, we love the visits each and every week. Hope you have a great rest of the week and enjoy the college football. You've mentioned that a couple of times here, so we're doing the same on this end. And enjoy week 3 that kicks off on Thursday night.
Guys, thank you very much. As always, good luck to the Titans. Texans have the Browns #1 pick, so they want the Browns to lose every game, just like the Cardinals want the Texans to lose because they have their #1. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next week.
Pretty easy for Texans fans to root against the Browns, considering their quarterback also.
Oh, yeah.
And all the history there. That's an easy sales pitch for Texans fans. Hey, root against Deshaun Watson. Okay, sign me up. Done. Ring against him.
Not hard to do. By the way, the NFL says they're not going to penalize Deshaun Watson. They said the contact did not warrant punishment.
Okay. Whatever. If that's a different player, they're getting penalized. And I'm not just saying Watson specifically. I'm saying star quarterback gets a break on that one.
Yes.
Because if that's someone that Deshaun Watson has a history, not necessarily a history of bad on-field behavior, but he definitely has a history that the league has had to look into. Anyone else with a history in the National Football League that doesn't play quarterback is getting some sort of fine.
We discussed quarterback. That's my quarterback is coming up. But who should shine right now that would be much better in a different system? A backup to buy stock in?
Did Davey wear his sunglasses to honor T.O. this week?
Maybe. That's next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump, now at least have to see, like, senile, not all there, probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, like who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Hell yeah, baby. I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Glad you're with us for Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick network. And
Hutton, can I share a quick theory with you?
Sure.
The more numbers you have in your X profile, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter, the dumber you are. And the angrier you are with everything and anything. I found that most people that come after me on X, still getting used to that, they have a bunch of numbers in their name. Like this guy.
What's the, I think it's probably 2 or 3 numbers
in a
username where I believe after that it's a fake account or a bot after that.
I think it's people that.
No one's going to create an account with
out
7 numbers.
No, out of stupidity, I think people put their phone number in.
Or
something. I really do. I got into it with a guy over the weekend that had his phone number. Like it was clearly an area code and a phone number followed by his name. This X user is Jim S77806496. That's his number, okay? OutKick posted a video of us talking about was it a dirty hit at Colorado State with Colorado. My claim is it was a dirty hit. I'm glad how everybody's handled it since.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was a player taking his shot, and he took it.
Sure.
Jim S77806496 writes and says, it's called football. Notice after the hit, Colorado receivers didn't want to go over the middle. A lot of out patterns. Dude, he was injured on the sideline. So your claim is that this hit was to intimidate them to not run over the middle. So the hit where their teammates saw his liver lacerated on the sideline on a late hit, that encouraged them to, as Jim S. with all the numbers says, run back to where their player was hurt. We're going to go more out patterns to try to get hurt over there again. Just think before you post this ridiculous stuff. I would have said tweet, but now it's post. That's just completely moronic. Again, I just wanted to share that theory. The more numbers in your social media account, the dumber you are. This is science.
Maybe you've seen the tweets or posts about the new addition to the OutKick network, and that's Donovan McNabb. The 5 spot with Donovan McNabb debuts on OutKick right now, Tuesdays and Fridays on the OutKick network, Facebook, X, YouTube. You check out OutKick with Donovan McNabb. The 5 spot with Donovan and Armando Salguero, also a part of the show. Love this. And we've seen a small clip of this so far.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Donovan's going to join us on Thursdays. Hot Mike, looking forward to that. Going to join us somewhat regularly as well. So that's going to be awesome. Donovan McNabb, one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL. Lots of fun. Electric player. And he's going to be electric with OutKick. So that's going to be if you're an NFL fan, must watch.
Chad, can't wait for this. And also, we've got the Curt Schilling baseball show as a part of the OutKick network with the podcast. He will join us coming up in 15 minutes. So the bar owner in Milwaukee that had the promotion going about when the Jets win, when the Jets lose, and you can run up the bar tab based on expectations of the Jets winning or losing. So it was when the Jets lost, the bar would pick up the tab because Rodgers had left the Packers, right? It was so whenever Rodgers gets hurt in week 1, the entire bar thinks, man, this is Let's go. Call up all the friends. Let's run up the tab.
Jack's American Pub.
There you go. Great name. And at Jack's, well, of course, the Jets ended up winning that game against the Bills, and they had fans.
A lot of people had to pay up.
A lot of people with astronomical tabs. Well,
a lot of people ordering Goldschlager shots
flipped,
once they saw him get injured, thinking, "But this is on the house. I'm going high end tonight, baby. Here we go."
Made with real flakes of gold.
Get some shots for my friends over here. Also, it's on my tab. It's on Hutton, Hutton. That's on my tab. You put those drinks over there.
They've now flipped it to where when the Jets win, that's whenever you get to run it up.
If you can get this much free publicity, which Fox News and other outlets has given this bar, why doesn't every bar owner do some ridiculous promotion to try to get this level of free promotion? I'm being serious. What a great advertisement for Jack's American Pub. Now, you have to somehow sort through the numbers and understand that I'm not going to lose my ass on this promotion if they end up winning a bunch of games, right? You gotta crunch the numbers and show that. But if you can do something that generates this level of interest, it's a lot of Kentucky Tavern, bourbon and Cokes. But if you can make it work, I mean, why not? Look at we've talked about this story 3 times already.
I know.
Jack's American
probably
Pub.
A fourth
Jack's
tomorrow.
American Pub. They have not paid a dime to us, and we are just giving them free publicity. If Jack is, I don't know if this is like in memoriam, a memorial honor for him. If he's alive, Jack, I salute you, sir. Well done.
Maybe he can make it up, the owner, by just laying down some cash with PointsBet. OutKick.com/bet. If you haven't taken a shot with PointsBet, now's the perfect moment. Reason why, exclusively for first-time PointsBet users, grab this unique offer. Right now, PointsBet users can get up to $1,000 in second-chance bets. If your first bet doesn't go as planned, PointsBet has your back with a second chance. Get this offer by visiting OutKick.com/bet. Complete the registration process with PointsBet and make your first bet. And if you don't know what a second chance is, if your first bet if it loses, that's when the second chance comes into play. Remember, terms and conditions apply. You got to be 21 or older in legal gambling states. Gambling problem, 1-800-GAMBLER. Head over to OutKick.com/bet now to snag this offer. OutKick.com/bet.
Tomorrow's promo, we will define more gambling terms.
Well, second chance.
I like that. Or just second chance.
Yeah.
I like definitions.
No second chance
Big
needed.
dictionary guy over here.
No second chance needed for Davey Hudson. He understood the assignment. The glasses are on. It is time for
yes.
That's my quarterback.
It's my quarterback.
All right, guys, in honor of T.O., I do have the sunglasses. Also,
Davey fighting back tears throughout this entire segment in honor of T.O.
It'll be difficult. Week. Did you guys know? So Terrell Owens ended up going to the University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, so UTC.
Yep.
When he committed there, he thought he was actually committing to the University of Tennessee at Knoxville and going to play for the Vols. He did not realize those were 2 separate teams.
I did realize that. He is from North Alabama, I think, somewhere, and then that's
Then he holds his Hall of Fame
good fact.
Induction
Davies
ceremony
fact
there.
of the day.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, managed to turn it into a 3rd-round draft pick, and the rest is history from there. But, guys, for our first question on quarterback of the day, quit holding me back. It's a quarterback that would shine in a different system or needs a new head coach. Who are you going with?
Well, I hit it earlier. It's Kenny Pickett. It's not Mike Tomlin that's holding him back. It's Matt Canada, his offensive coordinator. I think Kenny Pickett's got the potential to be a franchise quarterback and a big-time winner in Pittsburgh. He's not going to reach that potential as long as Matt Canada is calling plays.
For me, it's Justin Herbert, and it's not because of the offense or the coaching of what we've seen from him. He could become the 4th ever quarterback to have 50 or more touchdown passes in a season. Many were predicting that. I don't think it's a bold prediction because of what he does on a routine basis. But what's holding him back is Brandon Staley and the defense, because the defense also routinely allows the quarterback on the opposite sideline to feel like they can also have a 50-touchdown season, maybe a game, based on the way we've seen this Chargers defense play. It is Herbert paired with the defense of what we've seen from the Chargers.
Both solid answers, guys. I would probably add into that conversation. I know we were only able to pick one, but Justin Fields, something isn't there, and I'll be curious to see how that plays out. But for next
I will say for Justin Fields, I think it's Justin Fields holding himself back more than anything else. The coaching's not been good either. I'm not a believer in Justin Fields. But, yeah, also a possibility for sure.
All right, guys. So talked about some guys being held back. Who are some guys that are in front, and who is the backup that you need to buy some stock in?
Well, I don't think my answer is a popular one yet. But a lot of people are on the bandwagon of Sam Howell, and it was a great performance by Washington to get back into the game in Denver and then win it. And Howell's he has not been bad. But Jacoby Brissett is, his career is defined by being the backup to a quarterback that either gets hurt or that needs to step aside because things aren't going so well. I think Washington's going to be a very up and down, bumpy team across their schedule, and they're going to face some hurdles, and eventually we're going to see Brissett at some point. As far as backups, though, go, Chad, there are not a lot of great options, which makes it a great question. Brissett is the steady backup option wherever he is, and if Howell's not the answer, Brissett will be the short-time solution.
High-level backup QB play with Jacoby Brissett, no doubt about it. Gardner Minshew's a high-level backup quarterback also.
Yes.
And he showed why, going 19 for 23 for 171 and a touchdown on Sunday.
That's what he does.
They won 31-20, QBR of 90.5. What was the old ESPN 30 for 30? What if I told you? What if I told you that Gardner Minshew just didn't lose in Indy? And while Anthony Richardson is out with a concussion, Gardner Minshew won a couple games. And then what would happen when Anthony Richardson is healthy again if the Colts are winning with Gardner Minshew? I'm buying stock in Gardner Minshew possibly being a better option than the rookie quarterback right now. Now, I don't know that I would do it if I'm Indianapolis because you got to find out what Richardson has. And he hasn't been bad to start the season. He wasn't bad at the start of this game.
No, he's been okay, but he gets hurt.
Minshew might be able to win more for the Colts this year than Anthony Richardson. I'm buying stock in Gardner Minshew.
Well, Minshew, it's crazy. Whenever I see him, I think back to walking through the Jacksonville airport every year whenever he was the starter in Minshew Mania in Jacksonville. He was everywhere in the airport. He was the face of the city. It was his voice on the announcement, "Welcome to Jacksonville. Hey, this is Gardner Minshew."
The Fu Manchu mustaches.
Yeah, enjoy, blah, blah, blah. And then Trevor Lawrence is drafted, and we know Minshew's out, right? But he's still there, and you're still seeing him. You're still seeing him all over the airport as the face of the franchise when even he knew he was about to be traded to Philadelphia, given the circumstance of he's on every billboard, and they want Trevor Lawrence to have the starting opportunity and be the face of the franchise. You're not going to have the guy that was on the billboard be the backup in the locker room, regardless of how good he was as a backup.
I love the Gardner Minshew story. Guy that after leaving ECU thought he was going to go hold the clipboard for some quarterbacks at Alabama, potentially Tennessee, and then he gets a call from a man named Mike Leach, and Mike Leach asked Gardner, he said, "How would you like to lead the nation in passing?" Little did we know that's what actually happened. And
also looks like a guy that when he's done playing, Jake Plummer is going to ask, "Would you like to do some shrooms with me?" And the answer will be yes from Gardner Minshew.
He's going to wait until the
He has the look
over.
of a man that's definitely going to do shrooms with Jake Plummer one day.
Yeah, I really like
Aaron
that
Rodgers
answer.
would do it with him right now.
Yeah, maybe they did this past offseason.
Hey, the next question you have, Davey, this guy that Minshew could be an answer for.
It's a solid one right there. But which quarterback would you love to see be on the next, I guess, season of Netflix's show, Quarterback?
No, I hope we see it. I know we will see Stafford. I want to see Joe Burrow, Joe Cool behind the scenes. You know, he's talking about getting a haircut because they lost week 1. Certainly didn't help in week 2 with the calf injury that was re-aggravated. He's wearing the linen suits off the plane. I think Burrow would be awesome.
Yeah, I think Burrow would be good. I think it's tough to go wrong with this, and I'm going to go Baker Mayfield. Loved his work in the commercials back when he was relevant and in commercials. I think he's relevant again with Tampa Bay with his start. He's got a big personality. This show, though, what it displayed in season 1 was they can make boring dudes look interesting. Hello, Marcus Mariota. He was not dull on this show because of the behind-the-scenes nature of it. So I think you could take any quarterback in the NFL and make them interesting with this show.
Kirk Cousins also applies.
I'd rather see someone that's actually interesting and fun, and that's Baker Mayfield.
Too many quarterbacks that are saying that they're boring and dull and won't do it. That sucks.
Well, let us find out.
Yeah, Mariota's boring and dull, but he was compelling on the show because you get to see a different side and go behind the scenes with it. It's still interesting.
Come on, Josh Allen. Come on, Justin Herbert.
Yeah, Josh Allen's he's doing good commercials too.
Yeah,
Get him on there.
Curt Schilling
Good
joins
job,
us next. Talk Major League Baseball and the upcoming playoff season.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick, the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting. That was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on the Tuesday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Glad you're with us across the OutKick network. We will get into some NFL overreaction discussion based on the first 2 weeks going into week 3. It kicks off on Thursday in San Francisco as the Giants will visit the 49ers. Chad, fast-paced show today, and that continues. Joining us on the OutKick Network, and you can catch his show, the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, every Tuesday and Friday. Episode 58 available right now, and we always enjoy the conversations and stories each and every time we have the chance to say hello to Curt. Curt, hope things are well, man.
They are. I want to start the show off by saying that I went 4-0 in fantasy football this weekend, so I'm feeling very, very good.
Why 4 leagues and not 5, Curt?
Okay, I went 5-0. I didn't want to say 5 because 5 sounds more obsessive, but yeah.
I can't keep up with all of it, man. If I do more than like 2,
I got to tell you, I'm crushed by the injuries, and not because they're personal, but I hate to see the stuff happening that to the degree it does. And Chubb yesterday was
brutal. Hey, speaking of injuries, Ohtani, that's a topic on your recent podcast and your show. He's cleaned out the locker. Where's he headed, and what do you make of the timetable here, Curt?
He's headed home, number one, and number two, he will not be re-signing in Anaheim. Absolutely, no, there's little to no chance of that. So, very awkward, situation. When you get baseball's, I don't know how many people know this. When you get hurt during the season, you show up to the ballpark and rehab, or you have surgery and rehab. Now there's only a couple of weeks left in the season, so maybe the situation is a little different. But you don't clean your locker out and leave. That doesn't happen until after the season's over. So very curious as to why and how that happened. I can't imagine that the team told him to do that. But I think it's pretty safe to say he will not be an Angel next year by any stretch of the imagination. And the sooner he has the surgery, the better, in my opinion, if he wants to be a two-way player.
Well, there's definitely something behind the scenes going on there. Do you think it could be that he's pointing the finger, or is someone's pointing the finger at the Angels for why issues happen with him?
No, I don't. No, I don't think that's it. It's Major League Baseball and the background and all the stuff is no different than the real world from a business perspective. People that are in positions of power shouldn't be sometimes. Mm-hmm. People that are in positions of authority shouldn't be sometimes. And people do really stupid things. And the problem is that there's a microscope from the media perspective looking at. I found it funny that no one in the media. It just shows you how little these beat reporters know about, like, him cleaning out his locker is not a normal thing yet. No one reported on it other than it was cleaned out. And I thought that was very telling about the kind of the baseball IQ of the writers out there. But I don't think anybody's pointing fingers. I think he's just done with it. And I don't think they had a problem with it, I guess.
So the Braves clinched the division in Philly, winning 3 out of 4. And then they promptly lose 4 straight games, going for a 5th possible straight loss tonight. How much does it matter at this point? I know there's still 4 games up for home field throughout the National League playoffs, and the Dodgers, you want to knock that out and clinch that as well. But after you clinch, Curt, how important is it to stay in a winning mindset throughout late September as you get ready for a postseason push?
I don't think you change your mindset. I mean, certainly things change, right? Because you've clinched, you're making the playoffs, guys are going to sit and get some rest, and you're going to play some kids. Excuse me, although a lot less now with the change in the roster rules for September than it used to be, which I don't think is a really necessarily a good thing. But the little streaks after you clinch are not really relevant unless you clinch like the 1st of September and you've got 30 days. There's this sweet spot of time between clinching and the playoffs, and I'm not sure what that is, but there's too long and too short. Right? I mean, if you look over in the American League, you've got Baltimore and Tampa that may play till the final day of the season for that division. That's tough to do, to play, because basically every game between now and the time it's clinched is a playoff game. So you've got 12 to 13 consecutive playoff games, and then you have a day off, and then you have playoff game number 1 coming. That can be taxing.
Does it matter if the Orioles don't win the East?
Oh, God, yes.
Okay.
Oh, listen, the difference in let's put it, why? Because whoever wins the East has a bye, right? I mean, they have a bye. That's not even in discussion. Whoever wins that division has a bye. That is huge. for one of those two teams. And I do love the fact that it puts emphasis on winning the division. But one of those teams is going to be playing Houston or Texas, and whoever wins the division is not going to be. So yes, I think it's incredibly important to win that division and absolutely essential for one of those two teams if they want to get to the World Series.
Yeah, and I realize the common sense aspect of it too. You want to win to get the bye, but just from like the all season long they have been at the top, and then they're caught at the very end. Is there a psychological aspect to it?
Well, I see what you're asking, and I think that the larger overall picture is, okay, if you have a good manager, listen, it is what it is. We didn't win the division. Our playoffs start Tuesday.
Yeah.
You don't dwell on stuff like that because it really is. I mean, October is a new season and a new schedule. It's like hockey in a sense. Mentally, you clear out. Nothing matters. Nothing matters from the divisional perspective and who got what, who's home field advantage. On Tuesday, the playoffs start, and that's the season.
Is there a team that maybe is not even in one of the wild card spots right now, but close to it, that has a chance that you are really rooting for because, Curt, you would want to see them in October? You want to see them play in postseason, maybe out of curiosity or just a team that you've liked throughout the season that you want to see get that chance?
Not really. I mean, the National League is the only place where I think you've got ambiguity, right? I mean, there's five teams within 2 games, and San Diego holding out 5.5, probably out of it. But nobody. I mean, all the teams. I know no one's. One of the teams that I haven't heard anybody talk about is the Cubs. I mean, the Cubs right now, today ends, they're in the playoffs, and I haven't heard anybody mention the Cubs.
Yeah.
And those are the teams that tend to like screw everybody's first week of the playoffs up because they end up winning the series, and it's like, wait a minute, I didn't even know they were here, much less going to the next round. So the Reds, the Cubs are going to be interesting. I think all of the National League wildcard teams are going to be potentially interesting with potential to be there at the end. I just don't understand how anybody's going to be able to get through Atlanta in a 7-game series. I really don't.
So, speaking of Atlanta, John Smoltz said something that raised a lot of eyebrows recently, and you would know better about this than anyone else. Yeah. Well, watching Spencer Strider calling a game, he said, this guy at this point in his career is ahead of every great Braves pitcher in history. And you could tell there was a bit of a moment of silence after that, and the guys doing the broadcast said, really? And he stopped himself and said, I sucked when I started out in baseball. He said, I had to learn how to do this. I had to learn how to be a pitcher. So I'm speaking for myself, and he knows the other great Braves pitchers pretty well also. And he said, I talked to these guys. They would say the same thing as to where this guy is right now in his career and his understanding of pitching. Do you buy that, Curt?
Yeah, well, from him, yes. I mean, he was there. He saw it. And as pitchers, we tend to have an understanding when we're watching other pitchers of, younger pitchers, baseball IQ, and how did they get it? And you can watch just little things you can watch, nuances of pitching that you can watch to understand whether a guy is ahead or behind the curve. And if he says it, I'll believe it. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, played with a couple of Hall of Famers who were in, and you look at Maddox's first year, you look at Glavin's first year, first 2 years, there was a learning curve, and he hasn't really had he's won during his learning curve, and he's also had a benefit of being on an enormously good team. The only downside is that mustache just wears me out. I just so desperately want to see that gone.
It looks fake.
Yeah.
It looks like a movie prop, but at the same time, when you're that good with that much stuff, you can pretty much do what you want with your facial hair.
Charlie Chaplin, pitching for the Braves there. Curt Schilling, our guest, host of the Curt Schilling Baseball Show. You can catch on the OutKick Network. Available right now, episode 58. Every Tuesday and Friday is when you can find that. So Tampa announces that they've struck a deal with the stadium in St. Petersburg. 2 things. Number one, is this good for the Rays, good for MLB that baseball remains in the Tampa area? Number 2, I'm not trying to be highbrow here, but when I see the proposed and an agreed upon price of $1.3 billion, I'm thinking the Titans here in Nashville, Curt, are building a $2.5 billion stadium that's going to be tiny as well, and the Rays are basically moving into a a different version of what they have. I'm sorry for thinking that, and I know it's a lot of money, but that's what
You're right.
That's what I think.
Well, this is good for nobody. It's not a market that's ever going to support Major League Baseball. And this is I think this is a huge mistake. And I think it's isn't that the Tampa thing part of a $6.5 billion renovation downtown or some insane number?
Yeah, that's how they, yes.
I don't understand how they're continuing to do this with the economy and middle class being what it is. And I mean, this economy is horrific. The middle class is getting crushed and devastated. And these people are moving $1 to $6.5 billion around like they're playing Monopoly still. And I don't get that. But this is an absolute lose-lose for baseball and for St. Pete, only because St. Pete is not a Major League Baseball town and never will be.
I almost feel bummed out for Oakland, Milwaukee to an extent, like actual good baseball markets that didn't get a deal like this done. And then it's Tampa, of all places, and that fan base that gets this stadium.
Well, I think Oakland dried up.
Yeah.
I don't think Oakland is what it once was. I don't think we're looking at 73 Oakland anymore. I think we're looking at a crime-ridden, and I think that's across California. I think economics and politics have destroyed that state, and the businesses are rightly leaving. And I don't blame Oakland one bit for the franchise for doing what it is they've done. Although you have to put them on a short leash, because I think for 20 years they've screwed their fans with tight payrolls when they didn't have to, and all the other things that go with that. But that's another story. But I just look at this Tampa thing as a complete travesty, and in many ways, I think it's just there's $1.5 billion for us to divvy up. Let's do it before somebody else does it.
Curt, we always love reminiscing through your memories and time in the league. Who's the player that comes to mind on all the great teams, solid rosters that you played for and with, that you just knew this time of year he would turn it on, regardless of how he was playing during the season, regardless of what was going on, he was going to be ready when playoff time rolled around?
Well, I mean, I hate to give an obvious answer, but David Ortiz. I mean, you knew he was going. He was a good player anyway. But it was the amazing thing about David was, as good of a year as he had, you knew he was going to be better. And to some extent, Manny, because I think Manny was so aloof that he didn't realize October 1st wasn't like April 15th. And so Manny never took pressure to at bats. So he hit in October the way he hit in September and July. But David was going to step it up, and you knew it, and it didn't seem possible, but it happened year after year. But he was the one guy. Lenny Dykstra was another one who you knew when the cameras were on, he was going to be better than he was. Not a lot of guys that you could count on like that.
What's the better mentality that you found over your course of years playing? Guys who treated every game the same, that did not get too emotional or too up for the playoffs, and it was just like a game in mid-June, or the guys that elevated and thought about it differently once they got to postseason?
The guys who had 35 homers and drove in 135. I mean, at the end of the day, you stopped caring about all that other stuff when the numbers were there. Like Manny's stuff in Boston, when he was going through and being Manny, nobody cared, because he was hitting 335 with 45 homers and 135 RBIs. When you stop out producing your attitude, then it gets tiresome and boring. And then you start caring about stuff. J.D. Drew had a legacy of not caring and being nonchalant. Look at his numbers. He put up numbers. I never cared about stuff like that. I mean, there were clubhouse things and discussions, but at the end of the day, as you get older, you stop caring about the trivial stuff. You stop caring about all the stuff the fans care about, because at the end of the day, I wanted Manny to go 2 for 3 with a walk and 2 homers. And so if he had to do something uniquely Manny before the game, so be it. I didn't care.
You mentioned Lenny Dykstra, and I'm thinking of the book Tough as Nails and all of his appearances on Stern.
Yeah. Quite the character. Quite the character, that Nails.
I thought he was always on. I thought he was always on, Curt.
Yeah, character is one word for it. I mean, it's sad. It's a sad story. It really is, that to see how far he's fallen. When I played with him, and he was such a different person.
Oh, and the way he played the game too.
Yeah. Well, he played the game the way he played life. And that you can't do that.
Curt Schilling, always great. And the same can be said for the Curt Schilling Baseball Show, available at OutKick.com and across the OutKick network. Always enjoy this, Curt. And next time
Same.
we'll be talking playoff matchups.
Yeah,
and
it'll be
rolling
playoff
into
time,
it.
guys.
Yeah, man.
All right, take care. Have a
Thanks,
great week.
Curt.
Same to you.
too.
Curt Schilling there. Yeah, I'm guessing there's not too many stories on Dykstra that can be told in that same vein that he would tell them. Dykstra would tell them. I'm saying
Only in a penthouse forum could you tell most of the
in
stories with Lenny
multiple
Dykstra,
countries.
I'm sure.
Yeah, amazing.
HBO After Dark.
Yeah, if you haven't seen or read the book, you just flip to any page and you'll be entertained.
I think Lenny Dykstra's biopic would only be seen on Cinemax back through the grainy TV that teenagers would watch it on at 1 a.m. That's the only way that would actually be shown.
Yeah, HBO.
Getting the
After
illegal
Dark.
channels where
No doubt, man.
it's just squiggly enough where you can see.
I love his take too on just be steady throughout. That's the numbers speak for themselves.
The best mentality of the guys who hit 45 home runs and batted 330. Those guys always seem to have the best mentality even in the playoffs.
No
Makes
doubt.
sense.
Yeah, Curt was one of those.
But there are guys who think differently about big moments, and other ones who just their pulse is always the same, just steady as can be, no matter what. And I guess it's whatever works best for the individual.
He's right about Ortiz.
Yeah,
Big Papi. Coming up, NFL overreaction. We'll discuss some moves made, some good play, poor play, and whether or not we're buying it going into week 3. Plus, insane TV ratings for Colorado State in a late matchup next.
I'm here at the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix, but that's not the only big race that's on people's minds. Let's go talk about it.
There's no way Biden can win again. There's just no way. Even the people that voted for him because they didn't like Trump now at least have to see senile, not all there. Probably won't be alive for 4 more years.
Are you a Trump guy? Or are you a DeSantis guy? Or someone else?
I don't like any of them.
Who's your dream candidate? Who would you want to run?
Myself. I think the best candidates probably are smart enough not to run.
I just hope there's somebody that's young enough to care about the country instead of their politics.
My fear is they get Gavin Newsom from California. And I think it would be the new cool vote for the younger people, and that's what I don't like.
Who do you think on the Republican side would be able to take on Gavin Newsom?
Great question. As a Republican registered, I love what Trump's body of work did, but they're just out to get him and destroy him, and we won't get things done, which is crappy for me to say. I thought DeSantis was going to be the guy. Trump only has 4 years left. He cannot fix everything that just happened in 4 years. And he's going to be battling indictments and all these false stuff for the next 4 years. We won't get anything done. And it'll just be the stalemate in America. That's why I almost don't want him in. But if he is the leading candidate, that's who I'm going to vote for.
Is there any Democrat that you would vote for, consider voting for?
Absolutely not.
What about RFK Jr.?
No.
Who should our first female president be?
Michelle Obama, of course. Yeah.
I'm going to go with Harambe 2024.
We have the 2024 presidential race coming up, and I wanted to see who you thought your favorite TV characters would vote for. Homer Simpson, who do you think he would vote for?
Donald Trump, all the way.
Vito Corleone.
Whoa. Whoever advances the cause of the Corleone family. Yeah.
Tony Soprano. If Tony Soprano is voting in the 2024 election, who do you think he's voting for?
I'm gonna go Ron DeSantis.
Okay, why do you think that?
Just seems like a Ron DeSantis kind of guy.
Is this a meatball joke that you're trying to make right now? What about Homer Simpson?
Homer would vote for Biden because he's a dope.
Who do you think Napoleon Dynamite would vote for?
That's a good question. I actually don't know.
There's a right answer here.
He's voting for himself or Pedro.
There's a Viking show, I think.
Okay.
Maybe that's Hulu. I don't know.
So in the Viking show, whatever the main character is, who do you think they would vote for in 2024?
Probably a goat or a dog.
I think we have one of those in office right now. So who do you think Jon Snow would vote for in this upcoming election?
I'm going to say Donald J. Trump.
Why do you think so?
Because Game of Thrones is all about about drama, and Trump comes with the drama, baby.
Would you vote for Trump from jail?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. Because at that point, what else do you have to lose?
Okay, would you vote for Trump from a jail cell?
Yeah, baby, I will get Trump out of jail.
Would you vote for Trump in jail?
Oh, yeah.
Based as
The thing that Trump needs to remember is there's another political figure that said, I don't recall very well. Yeah. And that's all he's got to say.
Is there like a dream candidate, someone that you think could like save us all?
Yeah, Jesus.
Amen to that.
Our thanks to Curt Schilling, John McClain, and Jim Nagy for joining the show today. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, fast-paced. Hopefully it's been for you as well, whether you're watching or listening.
Flown by.
Yeah, absolutely. Did the Colorado State game fly by for those that stayed up late? People are telling Deion good morning in the presser. The ratings certainly show that. We were comparing numbers for the two games last week, Texas and Alabama, and what we saw for a big noon kickoff too, with Colorado and Nebraska. And Chad, I'm not stunned because there's an audience, especially on a Saturday night, that'll stay up late or they're getting home from the bar, or their own game, who knows. And, you're still a little bit wired and you don't want to shut it off yet. But did you expect 8.2 million viewers at 2:15 a.m.?
Well, it's more than just that, too. The 2:15 a.m., 8.2
I'm just looking late
it's
time.
Huge, but, it's all late. It started at after 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Yeah, but this
thing kicked off.
This is due to one program, though, as we know.
Oh,
I'm just thinking of the...
This is Hutton. This is the 5th most watched college football game in ESPN's history. And it started at 10:12 p.m. Eastern time. It's the most watched late night game ever. Shatters any previous record on ESPN college football after dark late night. The game peaked at over 11 million viewers, averaged 9.3 million over that time. It was more than 1 million viewers bigger than the peak audience of any college football game on Saturday, and this happened late at night.
Now, here's where my mind goes with it. Think about if Tennessee and Florida was a close matchup down to the wire, and it rolls into this.
I'm willing to bet that Tennessee, Florida, and probably Georgia, South Carolina, when South Carolina was ahead, are the two top candidates to be the most watched throughout the day on Saturday, but still over 1 million less than Colorado State.
But I'm saying, like, if Tennessee, Florida but it was a tight game that ends and then you go straight into Colorado State.
Oh, would it have been more?
Yeah,
I don't know.
You clearly get that audience, but it grew.
I have a hard time believing they could get any more than they did. I mean, that is just remarkable numbers for ESPN in that game. And it's kind of the chicken and the egg also. I see a lot of people saying, what is the prime effect? Well, this is the prime effect this game. Well, it's also the effect of countless hours of promotion from everyone. College Game Day on ESPN, the final hour had over 3 million viewers. It is the it's the most watched September College Game Day since 2010 on Saturday. But my point is, everyone is giving publicity to Colorado Deion Sanders. So it's kind of everything funneling up to these big marquee games now that involves this celebrity program.
But you don't even need to wait until game day, meaning College Game Day, to get the advertising and the promotion, because McAfee has The Rock on.
Yeah.
And then WWE SmackDown on Fox is in Denver. So they're promoting both. So The Rock ends up on SmackDown, but in the meantime, he's putting over Primetime and the Buffs. And then after the game, you have Shedeur get to the podium and mention, he's in Brady mode. And then Tom Brady has Shedeur Sanders and Deion on the Let's Go podcast.
Well, and someone brought up in our YouTube chat, David says, wait until you see Colorado, Oregon in the 3:30 Eastern window this Saturday. That is going to shatter some numbers also. Now 3-0 Colorado, but taking on Oregon.
Just a final thought, though. That is realistic to shatter numbers. The fact that when I say 2:15 a.m. Eastern, they're pulling that type of audience.
It's crazy.
That's going to still be more surprising to me than what they do in the 3:30 p.m. window this coming weekend.
Yeah, Allie says it's been quite a spectacle, no doubt about it. Also doesn't hurt that normal powerhouses have been underwhelming thus far. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
There's no real dominant power that everyone's looking at right now. I mean, Georgia's the two-time defending champion. They haven't lost yet, but didn't look the same against South Carolina. I mean, Colorado's the story. It's really simple. They're just the biggest story in college football, and everyone wants to see what's next.
It started with the win over TCU and has not stopped.
Did you guys see the top-rated markets, or the top 5?
It's a lot of southern markets from what I saw, right?
So Denver led the way, which that makes sense, at 16.3, followed by Birmingham at 13.7, Knoxville 10.0, New Orleans 9.3, and Tulsa at 8.7.
But those typically carry the college football market and television audience anyway. There's a reason why Pac-12 After Dark isn't pulling this on a routine basis, even though they're out in L.A.
Birmingham is always like the number 1 or number 2 college football market every weekend.
Yeah.
Knoxville's up there also. Big college football towns. That's still incredible numbers.
And they're watching a 3-0 game down there.
Well, there's a story that came out also.
Down in South Florida.
While I try to hold back a sneeze here.
You're
There's a
doing
story
well.
thank you. I've been doing it for 3 hours, so you're welcome. Somehow you have to sneeze on air. So this is, I should win an ESPY for my performance today. This is an Arthur Ashe Courage Award that you're witnessing.
So inspirational.
The fact that I've held back a sneeze for the entire show. Jerry Jones apparently came out a podcast, got Deion Sanders an interview at Arkansas when they hired Sam Pittman before he was at Jackson State. Deion Sanders was interviewed for the Arkansas head coaching job. Now think of the alternate reality where Deion Sanders is calling the Hogs before going to Jackson State and doing his thing at Arkansas.
At this point, they wouldn't be losing to BYU at home.
No, I mean, now I think the Jackson State step in the process helped him fully become who he is at Colorado. So if you take that part out, it's different. But that's fun to think about.
Well, the whole story is made by that because even Shedeur Sanders, who's playing at the HBCU, is like, oh, this isn't Power 5.
Yeah.
We're about to find out if he's a Power. Yeah.
Yeah,
And he's
overlooked.
More than that.
Yeah, underrated, that whole thing.
Chad, we certainly underrated Colorado going into the season. Overreaction would be that they're going to win the conference. What's going to happen in the NFL? There's plenty of overreaction right now as we head over to Davey Hudson with more questions and opinion about teams that are 0-2 or maybe 2-0 right now.
Guys, it's simple. Going to give you a statement. You tell me if it's an overreaction or if it is a realistic one. And we're going to start off, Monday Night Football last night. The Browns made a mistake in trading for Deshaun Watson.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's not overreaction.
At this point, it's 8 games, 11 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Is there not only did they make a mistake in trading for it, I mean, this year they made him a captain. He's wearing the C on his jersey. And he's playing like he did last year in terms of impact on the game.
He's also
helping the other team.
Killing every other quarterback that wants the fully guaranteed contract with his play, in part, because now it's very easy for owners to say, oh, you mean you should be like the dude who's failing in Cleveland when they gave him that dumb contract?
Yeah.
They can point to that and say, well, that was a big mistake.
But I would say that what's failing that is Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow not demanding it. And Lamar Jackson, who tried but was laughed at.
Yeah. But it's not an overreaction.
No.
It was a mistake.
Shout out Jimmy Haslam for being a trailblazer. Next up, Baker Mayfield is actually good.
Yeah, he's good. He's not great.
I don't think that he was ever.
He's good, not great.
I never thought. Let me tell you that. I thought he was fully cooked in Carolina when that didn't work out.
Okay, I will rephrase this now.
Okay.
Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback.
No. He's not a franchise quarterback.
No, probably not.
He is now the Kirk Cousins level when Kirk Cousins left Washington.
Yeah, he's okay. I thought that he was going – I thought he still had something left when he goes to Carolina,
but hey,
right, from Cleveland. I thought, okay, he can now have a reclamation project of his career. Didn't work out there. Then I thought he was cooked.
And
then
now,
I saw him with Sean McVay, and he was a little bit better. And now I see him, and I think, he's okay. He's not a guy I'm hanging my franchise on, but he's okay. So he's good, but not a franchise guy.
Yeah, you're not doing they do with Kirk Cousins. But isn't it interesting when those guys, like Cousins or Mayfield, actually have receivers, legit receivers in the room, what happens with the perception of that quarterback? They've got it in Tampa. Guys still remain from Tampa from the Brady era and even prior to that. And those guys have been good regardless of which quarterback they're playing with.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of when Fitzmagic first came to life. Did that in Tampa, had those 2 games early on, and then you're like, oh, wow, he might actually be having a resurgence.
I like that you rephrase this because franchise quarterback means you've got a legitimate chance at the Super Bowl. Baker Mayfield is not that guy.
No.
And Kirk Cousins doesn't seem to be that either, but Justin Jefferson is different than any receiver in the league when it comes to that.
Baker Mayfield, to me, is Matt Hasselbeck.
Okay.
He's the bridge guy that when the Titans signed Matt Hasselbeck, he was a really good quarterback for what they needed at that time in their franchise. That's what Baker Mayfield is morphing into. A late career Matt Hasselbeck.
All right, well, the Chicago Bears are hoping that Justin Fields can be their franchise quarterback, but do the Bears need to move on from Justin Fields?
I'm going to say yes. I do not see it with this guy. He's been given opportunities. I say that, but I think Matt Eberflus is awful. So he's going to get fired soon. And maybe you give one more shot with someone else, but I don't think Justin Fields has it, and I thought he was going to be something when he came into the league.
Well,
so I think they should move on.
I don't think they should move on. I think they should let Justin Fields play with the identity that he should be playing with. Luke Getsy, the OC, and I'm with Chad on Eberflus. They're trying to make him into this pocket passer. And last season, he rushed for nearly 1,200 yards. And he had 10 touchdowns doing so. I let him cook. Let Russ cook. Let Justin Fields be Justin Fields, and they'll be much better off for it.
The Bears are currently on a 12-game losing streak, and they're the only team in history that's allowed at least 25 points in every single one of those contests over that streak. They got a lot coming, and that kind of leads me into the next point, which is, look at them 0-2. Is it time to start that tank? But for this next question, no 0-2 team will make the playoffs this season.
I'm going to say overreaction.
I've got a graphic up.
I think there's one that will do it.
Right now of teams that are currently, this would be the order of the draft for teams that have yet to win a game this year. Denver leading the way, but Chicago at 2. They also own Carolina's pick. So depending on how the Panthers do, Chicago could be in the Drake May or Caleb Williams sweepstakes.
This is a flashing light overreaction because 7 of the last 10 seasons, a team that has started 0-2 has made the postseason. Last year, 8 of the 14 playoff teams started the season either 1-1 or 0-2. And the Bengals were one of the 0-2 teams, and they ended up winning the AFC North. So it's way too early to assume an 0-2 team is cooked, especially with the extra game that changes the percentage of the playoff opportunity, extra game of the regular season, and the fact that we now get 7 teams from each conference that are available to reach that postseason potential.
Yep, overreaction. Next.
And finally, it's time to start the tank. Which team needs to actually go all in and work on the future of their franchise?
I'm going to go a little bit off the board here.
Okay.
I've got a and/or proposition.
Okay.
It's the Vikings or the Patriots. Vikings are moving on from Kirk Cousins after this year. They made that clear with no contract extension before the year. His contract is up after this year. They're 0-2. They don't have that close game magic they had a year ago. They would be wise to get one of these great quarterbacks if this is, in fact, going to be a classic quarterback class coming into the league. They're a tank possibility. I also don't buy Mac Jones. I think the Patriots in this division could end up having a miserable record this year.
Could, yeah.
Might not be a bad time for them to tank as well.
So I'm not going to list anyone yet other than Arizona at 0-2. And it's not for the reasons why, like the playoff opportunity that the coaches want to save their job. I understand what the question is pondering. The Vikings at 0-3 would be my answer. They're taking on the Chargers at home this week because Kirk Cousins isn't back based on the money allocated to other spots. But I'm also not certain if I'm a franchise right now about going ahead and thinking that way based on the fact of the quarterbacks that are available. And do I want a guy he and his dad are already talking about like just coming back in case the team that's eligible to draft him, he doesn't want to play there? Like that I got to. Has anyone seen Caleb Williams play this year? By the way, Heisman Trophy winner last year.
They'll watch him when he plays Colorado.
Of course.
That'll be the first time.
But think about that. And the assumption is he's just the heir apparent to the new Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck or whatever. And more power to him. He's great. But, I mean, is he going to come in and demand that Lincoln Riley comes with him? I'm not willing to tank at 0-2. And I don't know why Arizona shouldn't even be an answer here because he clearly doesn't want to play for them.
I think he's talking about the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals should roll with Josh Dobbs from what I saw on Sunday.
He was rolling over people.
Pretty good performance.
I like Caleb Williams, but man, you're going to put everything into him being your franchise quarterback when he may not even want to play for you. Stay tuned. More next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation. And pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
Is it fair for people to be upset with Barbie?
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose. I mean, what have you seen firsthand of how this has affected you in the plant and your fellow employees? Under Joe Biden, the Taliban has retaken Afghanistan. Putin has invaded Ukraine. So if there was ever a time for freaking aliens to inhabit and conquer Earth, now would be that time.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
There's no doubt in my mind he could have caught the ball in his back pocket if he'd been running. Blowing a lead and losing a game is 100 times more lasting and painful in some clubhouses than losing the game 15-0. If I had to start a list in the last 10 years of horrible underachievers, he's at the top.
We were directly impacted by the whole Leah Thomas thing, and we were able to see you guys on the ground with your signs supporting, that was huge.
They were saying, oh, it's only 1 or 2. That's rubbish, and we all know that's rubbish. Once those trans-identifying males were able to succeed, it just encouraged others.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old Taste of the Southern Legend.
Sixth and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine, the site for our OutKick studios. Hot mic with Hutton and Withrow.
One more
on.
segment to hold back the sneeze, everyone. One more segment. Can I make it? Can I make it?
Chad even held it back during the break.
I'm going to blow 4 sneezes on the walk to my truck. Yes, I drive a truck. Shocking, I know, to everyone out there.
I'm not stunned by
the
this.
moment the show ends, mentally, I'm just going to let loose. I'm not even going to put my hands out. I'm just going to sneeze all over everyone on the walk out of here. It's going to be glorious.
Did you know?
It's going to feel like such a release.
If any, maybe,
Talking about it right now has me salivating for that sneeze.
I didn't know this. I never thought about this for the longest time. You mentioned sneezing. I feel like Davey Hudson for the fact of the day. Did you know you cannot sneeze in your sleep? So if anyone is pretending to be asleep or you perceive them to be asleep and they sneeze, they are awake.
I have awoken to sneezing.
No, you woke.
You
woke up
to
sneeze.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I had to wake up to sneeze. I didn't do it in my sleep.
You can cough and snore and all that, but can't sneeze.
There was my daughter's big into riddles right now.
Isn't that weird though?
That is crazy. My daughter's big into riddles, so we were at dinner the other night. She always wants me to just search riddles or dad jokes to give to her and then present to the table. And a riddle the other night was, what is the one answer you can never answer yes to? And the question is, are you asleep?
Oh.
It's like, that's pretty good.
There you go, good.
And everyone sat for a second and thought, that's deep. It's a great riddle. I got plenty more where those came from. Hutton, everyone out there knows the feeling. If you've got bad allergies or a cold or whatever's going on, with me, it's allergies right now. In fall, it's even worse. That sweet release of the perfect sneeze at the perfect time when you can just walk away and just let it out. 2 or 3 of them in a row.
And if you have allergies, the best seasons are the worst time for it. It's always middle of spring,
summer,
and as fall is
fall,
about to roll in.
Fall is worse for me than spring. Every year. And fall's my favorite season. This is not my favorite part of fall, though, the need to sneeze at all time. Tom Cruise has the need for speed in Top Gun. I have the need to sneeze.
Chad, there will be lawyers in regards to everything with Michigan State and the termination of Mel Tucker's contract and his employment as the head coach of the Spartans with cause, because Mel Tucker, Michigan State, former coach Mel Tucker, released a statement following the university's announcement of their intention to fire him with cause, and he's claiming that other motives are at play, more than allegations that were going on currently. And through his statement about his termination, Michigan State knew about the information on which it supposedly relied to in my contract since at least March 2023. That's one part of this that I've circled, because this Title IX complaint and investigation wrapped up in July, and he did start the season as the head coach of the Spartans, and they didn't have that emergency Sunday meeting at 5 p.m. with reporters until after it got public and went public. So I think he's got a case there about the fact that they've known about this, and not until it went public did they care to do anything about his status as head coach. And he also goes on in a statement to say that MSU cut off any semblance of interest in the truth or due process by terminating me weeks before the hearing. I chalk this up to another about face. Now, in that, last week he's saying that the hearing is a sham, and now he's pointing to the fact that they're terminating him before the hearing took place. So which is it there? If it's a sham, then what difference does it make on the timing of it?
It's a sham. I mean, I believe that this is a convenient way for them to get rid of Mel Tucker and not owe that buyout so they can move on to a different coach. I truly believe that. Now, I think they also understand they're going to have public sentiment on their side. There's not a lot of people criticizing Michigan State right now for making this move because of the stupidity of Mel Tucker in this whole thing.
Well, it also, though, like, it does come in the court of public perception and opinion. One person seems to be more believable than the other based on the fact that Mel Tucker originally said that it didn't happen to the Title IX investigator whenever he was asked about it. And then, records show and receipts show otherwise on a work trip, and he had to then write a letter and explain his side of it, that it was consensual, and he regrets it, his decision making, and he continues to double down on that in his statement here. But I just go back to the language in the contract. It is so vague and wide open.
And they do that for a reason.
But so when he says he doesn't feel like he violated the terms of the contract. Well, the terms of the contract are worded so that when this does go public, they can do exactly what they did. But you're right about the other end of this. If Mel Tucker is where Michigan is right now, if Mel Tucker is leading a program that's winning and not just on the upward trajectory of when he received the contract, but expected to compete for the Big Ten championship and the college football playoff, they're letting this process play out. They're not terminating him with cause after week 3 of the college football season.
Yeah, it's if they felt like Mel Tucker lived up to that gigantic contract, I think he would be defended by his university right now more. They would at least hear out his side of the story a little bit more. But he hasn't lived up to that contract on the field. His teams have not produced the level of a guy making what he was making at Michigan State, so they're trying to get rid of him.
Another statement, the investigation is designed to determine if I violated policy. I did not. But regardless, basic fairness requires that process play out before any sanctions are determined. That's another part of his statement. And again, there will be lawyers.
Translation that he's going to sue to try to get some of that buyout back.
Yep. SMU, they raised more than $100 million in 1 week to prep for the ACC future.
It's good to have oil money.
Oil money.
It's good to have oil
Big
money.
Oil money. And this is also why they can make the push, and they can put forth this negotiation with those that were voting no, that then turned around and voted yes. And that was for Cal and Stanford for the ACC. Now SMU was brought on the table too, and they made their pitch, and they get in. And they made their pitch by saying, we're not going to take any money from the media contract for 7 years. We don't want anything. And they can do that based on the backing of exactly what they just turned to.
How many programs could do this? $100 million that quickly? That is a lot of money. That's impressive by SMU. And I know they've got some deep-pocketed alums and backers.
I mean, they had
Laura
Bush, former First Lady,
but isn't that
lobbying for them?
That's still a significant amount of money to raise that quickly for their ACC future. Good job by them.
The other part that I just want to know, I would love to know the background of it, and part of it is their contract where they're locked in, where they're not. But if you can go to the well and pull this at Southern Methodist, why do it now and not be more proactive and jump earlier if you could. You see what I'm saying? Like it sounds like a desperate move now when it didn't have to feel that way. It could have been positioned where you could be the Colorado and the first to jump in instead of the last to latch on. But they've done that. They've latched on, and they made an offer that the ACC couldn't refuse. And it's good. Hey, but the other thing too, Chad, the ACC is now partnering with SMU and these funds. They'll get the financial backing too because they had the back of SMU.
Yeah. No, it's a good move all around. And money talks. So that's why SMU's there.
The Phil Mickelson, he's sharing his thoughts on gambling addiction and asking those that are betting on games across college football or NFL to do that in moderation.
He's not betting on football this year, right? Because he's in treatment or he's in rehab or not wanting to do it.
Yeah, but wasn't it like 3 or 4 weeks ago he was admitting that he's always going to have the friendly wager in practice rounds and your random golf course betting. I mean, I would expect that from him, but you can't bet on a football game now because of that?
He said, I won't be betting this year because I crossed the line of moderation into addiction, which isn't any fun at all.
But
Mickelson says the money wasn't ever the issue since our financial security has never been threatened. But I was so distracted, I wasn't able to be present with the ones I love and caused a lot of harm. This lack of presence has been so hurtful.
$875 million. His current net worth is estimated to be $875 million.
Don't want to gamble all that away. I guess he's saying that he was so into gambling that he couldn't talk to his family because he'd be into the game he was watching or whatever was happening.
Yeah.
So that's where it crossed the line.
But I just don't. But you can go on the course and bet, right?
Yeah.
I don't see if that's. I don't see how you can do one or you can't do both things if you're going to say that you're trying to handle the addiction aspect of it. And by the way, whenever he bets on the course, he's probably winning a huge percentage of the time. Chad, I thought Winning Time on HBO was a massive hit. Now, I'm judging this not on numbers. I'm judging. It would be tough to find probably. I'm judging this on how many people discuss Winning Time on HBO, and HBO is canceling Winning Time.
Well, I thought a lot of people were into it, but I come in here in the studio every week, and the 3 people that were watching it, I'm always way ahead of them. They haven't caught up on it. So maybe they weren't into the second season like a lot of people. The numbers weren't great in season 1, but it was a terrific cast. It's a great story. I think this show fell victim to a few things. One, it was too expensive. Shooting a period piece in L.A. with all production in L.A. is costly. This big of a cast and these actors. You got Adrian Brody, an Oscar winner, playing Pat Riley. John C. Reilly as Jerry Buss. Jason Clarke as Jerry West. Really good cast. They all did a good job. It's highly entertaining. But when you get into rip from Wikipedia mode, which I think season 2 got into, you're telling a true story, and it looks just like, all right, now we're going through the 1981 NBA Finals, and here's what happened. It can become hard to sustain. I was so disappointed, though, because I watched this thinking that we didn't know the fate of the show, the series, and if it was going to continue. And they showed the season finale to season 2, and then they did crayons at the end, the storyboards, the screens at the end that show what happened to every character, basically saying the series is over. Then I go online and immediately see, HBO confirmed right after the show aired that, in fact, that was the series finale and not a season finale.
So they did it kind of last minute?
I felt hoodwinked.
You think?
And I feel cheated based on what I know is going to happen in the rest of the 80s.
Is it also in large part due to the writer's strike or no?
I think that's got a part in it, and the actor's strike too. But if it was a huge hit, they would consider continuing. I don't think it was. The numbers were never great for it. The numbers, Succession was a big hit critically, and I love the show. But Succession was never a huge ratings hit to the level of a House of the Dragon or Last of Us that HBO has produced.
Yeah, but are they releasing their streaming numbers on that too? Are they?
It's easier to get HBO numbers than it is Netflix numbers.
But House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, all that, they were telling us what HBO was pulling on cable.
They're not saying a lot on this one.
Yeah, but I think
that tells you it's not very good.
Yeah, that's fair. I just hear about it a lot.
I wish the show would have continued. I would look. You can only go watch 2 seasons now. It's over after 2 seasons. I highly recommend. Very entertaining. Very entertaining look at the start of the Showtime Lakers.
We have an entertaining show tomorrow, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern is where you can find us. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Hope you'll join us for the Wednesday edition. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be back at it right here over the 3 hours to get you to your evening.